through.
But you're recording in here though, right?
They're recording. Yeah.
Yeah. So why can't I record?
I'm not saying you can't. I just said don't stick it in people's face.
Like
you
like
don't
what?
understand?
Like that? Is that what you mean?
I mean, don't put
touch
it
my camera, dude. You don't have a right to touch my equipment.
I'd like to call the city as the evaluation committee to hear the proposals from the state lobbying services. At this time, I would like for you to rise and for the invitation and pledge allegiance.
O merciful Creator, your hand is open wide to satisfy the needs of every living creature. Make us thankful for your loving providence and grant that we, remembering the account that we must one day give, be faithful stewards of your good gifts. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting today is November 1st, 2024, and time is 1:11. Starting the meeting. And would you please, clerk, please call the roll.
District 2, Commissioner Waitman.
Present.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey. Here. District 4, Commissioner Yeager. Here. District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Here.
District 1, Chairman Booth.
Here. Let me know we have a quorum, 505 commissioners are present. We will hear the proposals today for evaluation for the state lobbying services. Before we do that, it's also a public meeting. And at this time, I will take public comment from anyone that wishes to speak to the state lock-in position. And that will be all to take comment on. So is anyone signed up?
Yeah, 2 signed up. Michael before.
Thank you, Michael Poltorek, 9152 County Road, West of Chapel, 33545. Would like to ask for additional time because there wasn't appropriate time given to ask for additional time. It's no secret there's a lack in trust and faith in the current process. We see it all around the county right now.
Wait a minute. What are you talking about?
Okay, I'm about to explain that. So, your residents feel that there's a lack of transparency in the system, and we're now talking about lobbying. So we as your residents, yes, sir.
The public hearing or public comment is for lobbying for state lobbyists right now.
Yes.
That's all we have public comment for.
Yes, sir.
So could you,
I will abide by
could you get your comment on the lobby?
Yes, sir. I will abide by that. I promise.
Just give us that, that's all we need.
No emotion, it's just black and white. So, with transparency on this current agenda item, your current residents have some questions. What are we lobbying for? How much are we spending? The lobbying groups that we're looking at, who else do they lobby for? We want to know as your residents that they don't lobby for any organization or company that is currently profiteering off of the response from Hurricane Milton or Helene. We want to know that they don't represent special interests that currently or want to operate in Pasco County because we believe that would be a conflict of interest. We want to make sure that they don't represent the vendors that are currently trucking water off of Aaron's Cutoff. Your residents need some transparency on some of the decisions that are being made, and we want to make sure that lobbying efforts do not create a conflict of interest. Emotions are very high in the county, and the residents are looking forward. We're not looking back. whatever we're lobbying for, the money spent by the county is in the best interest of the current residents and not in the interest of developers or special interests that want to profit off of Pasco County. I have a minute left. I'd love to get into some examples. I don't think it would be allowed. I would love to, but that's the basis of the message, is we need you to be assigning these contracts in our best interest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Lisa Moretti.
Only to lobbying.
I'm sorry?
You can only speak to lobbying, of the state lobbies. We're doing, that's what we're here for.
I got you. I paid attention. I heard you. So my name is Lisa Moretti. Once everyone, I work with Strail. I had a few people send me questions about the lobbying, and I would like to propose those to you. So that they can listen in on real time or on the recording and have the answers to their questions because they can't be here. Who gives real-time direction to the lobbyists and the firm? Who assigns the agenda, and is it all public information? And how much is spent lobbying our own state representatives? So they'd like transparency on all of those questions. Thank you.
Thank you. No one else, anyone in the audience wish to speak to the lobbying of state lobbies? Seeing no one, we'll close the public comment period, and we will move on to hearing our presentations. The proposals, starting with Sunrise Consortium Group, then the Advocacy Partners, and ending with the Southern Group. In that order. So, Southern Group. Or excuse me, Sunrise Group.
I'll allow that one time, if that's okay.
We need to have Lynn do the introduction. Lynn will do the introduction on behalf of purchasing.
Okay.
Turn it over first, excuse me.
Thank you. My name is Lynn Castrellis, Pasco County Purchasing Agent, and I will be today's meeting facilitator. For the record, David Goldstein, Chief Assistant County Attorney, Karen Lloyd, Senior Assistant County Attorney, and Carrie Roberts, Purchasing Director, are here as advisors to the committee. Today's evaluation meeting is to hear, discuss, and rank oral presentations for the responding firms as determined by the October 23rd, 2024 meeting for RFP LK 24132 for state lobbying services. The responding firms from that meeting were Sunrise Consulting Group LLC, the Advocacy Group at Cardenas Partners, doing business as the Advocacy Partners, the Southern Group of Florida Incorporated. I will turn this over to Carrie Roberts, Purchasing Director, who will explain the process.
Thank you. Each proposer will be given 30 minutes of uninterrupted presentation time, then you'll have up to 30 minutes for question and answer after that. We do ask that you do leave the room after your presentation if you'd like to stay and listen to the evaluations. We anticipate that will be about 4 or 4:15. You're welcome to come back in at that time. For the committee, what we will do is we will hear all the presentations. You're welcome to ask your questions during the Q&A time, and then when we bring them all back in, we will start the evaluation. We will determine a final ranking of number 1, number 2, number 3. You'll have ranking sheets where you'll fill that out. We'll do some math for us, and then we'll tell us what our account winners are. And then you'll make your motion to accept. Okay. Any questions for me?
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you doing? Well, I'm going to start it off like this. I climbed an 8-foot fence to be here. There's an end to the story. I'll tell you, I truly climbed an 8-foot fence to be here. My name is Sean Foster. I'm with the Sunrise Consulting Group. We've had the honor and privilege to represent you for many years, and I think it's something that resonates with all of us, and it's Pasco County. Our county has been through a lot in the past couple of weeks with 2 storms, and been honored to be part of this county, be Pasco strong, see our folks come together like I've never seen before, whether it was before the storm, putting sand in sandbags, or serving food afterwards, and helping people with laundry. So it's been a tough couple of weeks, but I'll say it's going to resonate into the legislative session also. I've been around this state quite a bit this past 3-4 weeks meeting with legislators, and each community has had some unfortunate incidents from here over the east side. So I'm just going to say it's going to resonate quite a bit as we go into that session. Go to the next slide real quick if we could. I have it, I can do that too. I'm going to introduce my team. My name is Sean Foster. I told you I've been in the process now for 25 years. I want to introduce Gene McGee. You want to say a few words?
Hello, I'm Gene McGee. I've been with Sunrise Consulting Group about 3 years now. I live in Citrus County. One thing I like about this firm and joining this firm is we're not based in Tallahassee necessarily. We're a lot stronger regionally. I live in Citrus County, do business in Pasco County. I love that Sean's from Pasco County. I can tell you I've represented Citrus County for many years, and no client is top of my list more than Citrus County. You live there, you know all the commissioners, you know all the issues personally, you serve on all the boards. Nothing keeps me up at night more than Citrus County issues. I can tell you that Sean feels the same way. He has more anxiety, more stress, more pressure to perform for Pasco County than anything else. For me, I've been at this over 30 years, working with and for local governments. I was the chief deputy clerk of courts in Citrus County. I went up and worked for the House. Republicans, when they were a minority, had 43 members. I went with Sandy Moore from the Missouri Legislative Affairs Director, and then in 1998 I went out and started the company. And I've been at this a very long time, representing local governments and a lot of corporate clients. Sunrise Consulting Group runs their business a lot like I've always done mine. Very small, keep it small and keep it all was always my watchword. But we care about the clients that we represent. We don't have conflicts. There was a gentleman that came up here and talked about conflicts. We're very careful not to have conflicts with the clients that we do. Some firms get so big they can't avoid conflicts. We try really hard not to do that. So even though I'm part of this firm, I want to recommend to you Sean Foster and Andrew Collette because they do a great job for Pasco County and Hannah. They care very much, and you can very well retain this firm to continue lobbying for it.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the Commission. I'm Andrew Collette. I've been with Sean Foster for about 3 years. I think many of you have seen me up here and seen me in Tallahassee. I've been in and around state government since literally I was 18 years old. Worked for various state agencies, was legislative director for several state agencies, and then went to work for Sean because representing local governments almost feels like I still work for the government in some form or fashion, right? And it's something I'm very passionate about. I have loved representing you guys, love working with Mr. Goldstein and Rob Blair, and I just appreciate letting me be part of your team.
We have two more folks that have just joined our firm, and Ralph will know one of them, two of them really well. Georgia McHugh has joined our firm and is bringing in, she's got 35 years experience in the legislature. And another one is Debbie Dennis, who I know you've known for a very long time, Ralph. She's bringing in almost 28 years of experience. And so our small firm is growing. We've got about 135 years of experience. Her name is Debbie Dennis. She was a legislative aide, so she's going to be doing our job that she's actually from Newport Richey. She lives in the Panhandle now, but originally from Newport Richey. And she's going to be doing what it is. She's going to be our client coordinator, helping us keep the trains on the track throughout session, and project coordinator. So we're really excited about the new teams that we have coming on. So I kind of start off with what makes us different. And I think one of the makes us different, I was asked many, many years ago, does it hurt you, Sean, that you don't live in Tallahassee? Commissioner Redwire was going for an RFP, asked me, does it hurt you? And I said, it doesn't. I said, what makes us different is we are in the communities. Georgia is in Volusia County, where of course you heard from Gene from Citrus, I'm from Pasco, our other team member from the Panhandle, and the only one that we have here is in Tallahassee is Andrew. And I think if you think about it, we're in Tallahassee when they're in Tallahassee, for the times that they're for the committee weeks, when they're there for session, or we're back home. We're back home when they're at the nonprofit dinners, when they're at the chamber events, when they're at the political events or otherwise. We're with them year round. And a good example is I checked in with every delegation member a week and a half ago to see how they were doing, their communities were doing it, and how our county could help them with any items that they were going on. It helps with that type of relationship that you have. But not just that relationship, you have to have somebody who's all in. And I think you all know me well enough, and that's been our motto at Sunrise Consulting Group. We're all in. When it comes up with an issue like live local, and we needed somebody to roll their sleeves up, and David and I needed to go all in, we're all in with you on policy items. When you have appropriations that you need to fight for your community, and it's important to do, whether it's sidewalks that are not there for safety, we're all in. When it's folks that you need to know and have an intimate understanding of your district, we're all in. And those aren't just words, it's a motto in a group that we have. And I think another thing that we do is we have a policy that we return phone calls, emails, and text messages in 24 hours. No matter what the issue is about, if we don't have your answer, we'll let you know within 24 hours, and within time, and we'll get that information back to you. And I think that communication is key, because it's lost sometimes when you get a little bit larger and you find out that little bit of the lapse in communication, but we don't do that with our firm. And, pardon?
Well,
Yeah, sorry.
the one thing I was going to add to that slide is that I think something that makes this firm unique for this particular county is that Sean and I really try to be integrated with the executive team. I know Sean speaks with the county administrator frequently and speaks with you. The things that I send to Ralph, I really try to look at my representation of the county very holistically, and not simply that I'm just a lobbyist or just a legislature. If there's something we can do to help the county far beyond the legislature, we are all going to do it, right? So moving on to some of the policy work, I just wanted to quickly discuss that. Sean, why don't you talk about live local?
Sure.
And I'll pick up from there.
So we've been around the state, we've been talking to other delegations. This has been the number one issue. We tell you from Pasco County, like, oh, you took the lead on Live Local. David, I don't know about you, but I have a lot more gray hair since that's... Your hair's all gone. But I think that's a perfect example for our firm to show you where, you know, a lot of other firms had conflicts of interest. They had developers, they had other items, and they were not able to be at the forefront for their counties. We've seen some of that be difficult for them to kind of juggle right now, and we're losing some of those clients. We didn't have that issue. We went headstrong in knowing what we needed to do to make it right. And then we got threatened with appropriations, right? We got threatened we're going to lose our own appropriations. But you all had the foresight to know that we needed to make it right on a policy item, or it was going to have a lot longer standing on our appropriations, because it would have a lot longer implications on us financially for 20 years or more. So one, I want to say thank you all for working with us on that. Thank you for taking the lead on that and not being afraid. David, I thank you. I know you made your trek to Tallahassee quite a few times. And what's that? Oh yes, and Commissioner Mariano coming in there. I will tell you, Florida League of Cities, Florida Association of Counties very much lean on us and asked us to take the lead on that. So I really appreciate everything you all did. And Seth, you kind of were waving this flag even before it got really loud. So I appreciate you all very much.
Following up on just two other examples of legislation, and Sean mentioned, you know, the type of clients that we represent, thinking back to 1604, which I think Senator Napoleon ran 2 years ago, and that was what took away the ability to limit architectural controls from the county. That was something we worked on. We were trying to aggressively advocate to put back in that at least you could require lot size minimums, and that was something that we worked on. And what's interesting about that piece of legislation is I actually remember trying to, you know, part of what we do is help you find coalition in your advocacy efforts, right? And I remember Sean and I were trying to find some other stakeholders as well who were going to have an issue with that bill. And I remember we were going to call a particular entity and we were working with to try to get in contact. I was like, well, who's their lobbyist, right? That's what we do. We call other lobbyists, we have other stakeholders, and we try to build a coalition around an issue. And this local government was represented by one of the developers who was pushing the bill. And I was like, well, I'm not going to bother pushing that issue. But that is something that we worked on. When we look at 472, that is the limited waiver of liability. It's not a community. We worked on trying to get information to your delegation, right? That's what we do during session. Provide information to your delegation on the fly, right? So we worked to get information about what your insurance costs would look like had that bill passed, right? So we communicated that to your delegation. And while I think I can't solely take credit for that bill dying 2 years in a row, the work that we do on behalf of the county to bring that data to light, I think helps to, in this case, stop the home.
We just listed, we didn't go back as far as representing just the past couple of years, kind of give you examples of appropriations. I think we really excelled in this for our size firm. I think our firm is, we're going to go into another slide real quick, we really emphasize that we know this is a leadership-driven process. And so, you know, 1/3 of the legislature is getting ready to come in November. So 1/3 every 2 years turns over. you quickly have to make relationships, as you know, with term limits with the incoming members, because within 4 to 6 months, you can have somebody hit the speaker, and a little bit later, sometime the Senate president. We have been very, very strategic on those relationships. Obviously, you know, we're very fortunate. We're going to have Senator Ed Hooper, going to be the appropriations chairman in the Senate. We have Representative McClurg from Tampa. We just met with him last week. So we're really going to have a very Tampa-centric appropriations it would look like. And of course, I was telling you earlier, a very difficult year, but you have to look beyond just the 2 years. You got to look 4 to 6 years and who those speakers are going to be and who those lieutenants. And we've done a really good job with that. And a lot of that is fundraising. A lot of it is just having the benefit of knowing some of these folks and working those relationships through the process. We didn't list everything that we have worked on, grants or DOT things. Senator did an amazing job when he's appropriations chairman, Willem Simpson, you know, kind of helping us with the 5-year work plan with the DOT and otherwise. And so we're very beneficial at that. And I think you'll see that why we had Senator Ed Hooper also. Kind of put out just a really good strategy. Every firm has their strategy. One of it is just, again, going back to the all-in and working with you. I'm really pleased with the process that we've implemented with the workshops. We have a delegation meeting where you're going to be meeting with their delegation before there's the full delegation meeting in December. You know, these are the times we want to meet with them and start working in their ideas and what are the goals that are coming up with the legislature. Right now, the goal is going to be for what, right? Relieve flooding throughout the state of Florida. I don't care if we have the best fiscal year that we ever have in the next few years, there's still not going to be enough money to cure all those ills. And a lot of cities and counties are looking for those ills to be made whole in the next 2 years. What they're going to say to us right now is they're going to want to let FEMA have its process a little bit also. Let's see what FEMA does on reimbursement. Let's see what FEMA does on some other issues in the legislature. So I'll just say again, it's going to be a little bit tough. You're going to see tourism drop down a little bit. Obviously, 2 hurricanes just hit us. Spending is going to be quite a bit because you're going to have all the stuff being done to rebuild what's going on. So you're going to have the sales tax. We're waiting for the next President Estimating Conference, and we'll provide that information to you because that's going to give us an indicator on how things could have changed in the next 12 months. Right here, we just want to kind of look at how we kind of work with you. We put through a process where we collaborate, where we meet with the key members of the legislature. We educate them. A lot of the times they look at our projects and they really need to be educated on that process and what the benefits are to your county. What we have done also ahead of time is meet with your delegation to see what their priorities are. Some of them were previous SWIFT members, and they are very, intimate with some of the issues going before them, and they want to push those type of members there. So those delegation members, we're already having some conversations with it, and we'll be relaying some of that to you.
I was just going to say, and that's why on the slide, where I have the question mark, why is collaboration, why is it a two-way street? The county has its priorities from a very localized level, right? But because you have a firm like us, and our job is to be out there managing relationships at the state level, as Sean is going around and we talk about 1/3 of the legislature changing every 2 years, Sean is working, and myself and Gene, to meet these new members and find out what their priorities are. So then we can come back and have a conversation with you guys where you may say, we want project A and project B, but I heard everybody's really looking for project X, Y, and Z, right? So maybe we should tweak our projects to look like that, and maybe that alleviates you funding on another area that you're going to spend money on, and we were successful in getting money because of the information that we're able to traffic as we're going throughout the state. And that's part of that collaboration I wanted to touch on.
Let me give you a clear example. Senator Albritton was very clear before the hurricanes came in how he wanted to deal with water issues, water quality. He didn't feel that it should truly going through an appropriations process and having leadership decide where water issues should be. He felt it should go more through DEP, and he was prepared to make that process change in session. Will that stay? Will that continue? We're not real sure. Obviously, the goals have changed a little bit probably with everything that's happened in the past 2 hurricanes. The House has not really leaned in on that issue. If they would like to alleviate us being able to do water projects through the legislature and leave it totally to DEP. So I'm just kind of listening and hearing on that, on what that decision, because that could be huge implications for all of us and push into a grant program. Lastly, the governor has said too, is he wants counties, if they're going to apply for money, he wants some indication. It's not written in the rules, but this is an indication when he's making judgments on vetoes. He wants to see that we have applied for grants first before we've applied for money to the legislature. So these are the type of things that we'll be working with you all on. And strategies for this. You know, a lot of the times we just talk about the legislature, but throughout the rest of the year, we're doing a lot of work for this through DEP, DOT, executive office of the governor, and the Department of Commerce. We're very fortunate to have relationships throughout there. Alex Kelly, who is the Secretary of Commerce, is one of the reasons I'm standing before you today. 25 years ago, offered me a job, so we've been very beneficial. We work very closely on any appropriations, any grants that you all are going through and you need any type of support. We always look forward to helping you with that in our county. And then lastly, go ahead, Andrew. You know, what's that? That's really, that really is just it. I wanted to cut short and just say, you know, obviously, like Gene said, you know, you take a lot of pride in the county that you represent. We're very careful not to have those type of conflicts that were asked about here in the beginning. I think it's very important that, you know, Pasco County is your sole and most important client here. It's something that I want to enjoy coming back home to, and we're proud of seeing the great job and work that we've done together. So I hope we have another opportunity to work with you again, and that's it.
Mr.
One comment. He's done a lot of great things working with us, and as we all know, we don't know exactly what we need this session. Things change.
Yes, sir.
Stalling, when that came up, you were right there working with us, with the governor's office, getting the connections that needed to push them over, get that thing looked at, get it done. So as much as we don't know what's going to happen, we just know you need that relationship out there where things can happen. You guys have been great to help, especially when that issue is involved.
Yeah, that was a pretty crazy 72 hours right there.
Mr. Wayman?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Sean, those Yosemite Salmon, the Live Local Act before it came into law, everybody thought that was kind of crazy that it's a wolf in sheep's clothing. And I appreciated that you took time to listen to my concerns and take time to understand the language, and not write me off like some people did and told me to basically be quiet and get out of the way and stop talking about this. This is a good thing, when in fact it wasn't. And I think you know my nature and personality. I don't step away from the fight when one needs to have one. So I appreciate your efforts on Live Local. Another concern I have is Amendment 5. I don't know how much you've read Amendment 5. Amendment 5 scares me a little bit. Is it a wolf in sheep's clothing like Live Local Act was? I shouldn't say that. Unintended consequences if somebody tried to do something good. I'm concerned with Amendment 5. If you guys are watching this, it is going to force local governments as time goes on to have to raise taxes based on the CPI component. I don't think Amendment 5 is going to be healthy for local governments. And that goes with kind of the pattern of Tallahassee eroding home rule and allowing local governments to govern themselves. Not necessarily asking your opinion on Amendment 5, but if you have one on how local governments can we start to manage that situation going forward. But I'm asking for your commitment today. If you are chosen to represent Pasco County, at least as though I'm on this board, if I miss it or y'all see something that erodes, continues the erosion of home rule on how local governing bodies manage themselves, whether it's from development to how taxes are done, I want a commitment from you all that you will come and call on us and let us know and educate us. Because this board, obviously, I think we've shown that we're not afraid to have a conversation, no matter how difficult or uncomfortable it may be, to come up with a strategy to do its best for the citizens, not just Pasco County, but like the local, the state. And so I'm hoping that you'll commit to me to that today. No pressure. You don't have to.
Like I said in the beginning, I'll go with you all. We're all with you guys. I think we've shown that. And I'll also say real quick, if Andrew speaks, there is a process. Constitutional amendment passes, but it's not implemented until the legislature also passes a law. So there are going to be some laws that have to hit every one of those constitutional amendments. And I'll look you straight in the eye and dedicate to you with the same all-in type of mentality that we have, and nothing less.
Thank you. Commissioner, I was just going to follow up on that. Madam Chair? Thanks, sir. I was just going to follow up and say, there's so much that you guys have tried to find. It's honestly incredible. God bless you. If you were a healthcare organization or an insurance company, there's almost less legislation, not almost, there's significantly less legislation that negatively impacts an organization than the amount of legislation that's filed that impacts Pasco County. So we do try to send everything. In fact, I think one thing I was sent out was some regulations on, did you see the electric vehicle preemptions that came out? So, in fact, that's something, we put together fairly detailed reports during session. They actually snuck it in last minute into the agriculture bill. And so the electric vehicle regulation is now preempted to the state. The county can't do anything related to regulation of electric vehicle charging, sorry, not the vehicles, but charging. And the Department of Agriculture is going to implement some rules on it, and it's so important to be involved in the definition, how those definitions get shaped, because I think that's somewhat how you find any latitude on how you can maneuver that regulation being preempted to the state.
It'd be nice if you would quantify, I'm going to work with our county staff on this, the dollar amount of the unfunded mandates that local governments have to comply with, that forces cities and counties to really make some difficult decisions on taxation or how to spend the taxpayers' money based on the level of unfunded mandates that come down from Tallahassee every session. Drives me bonkers. And there's got to be a way to have a conversation with some folks to appreciate great ideas, but when it's implemented, there's a cost. It's not a free decision, right?
Correct.
Somebody's going to pay for it. And to just be able to have a conversation with folks when it's appropriate is important to me.
Well, I will want to compliment your staff because we frequently, through committee weeks in session, even very quickly, say, hey, a bill's coming up during session. I need to know what that dollar amount is. And we get it very quickly, put it on a piece of paper and go and speak to your delegation, even the members on there. So we do that. It's sometimes feel like we're throwing things at the wall and it's not sticking or it's falling on deaf ears, and it's very unfortunate. You do have more members. I'll tell you right now, Jeff Holcomb has been an amazing advocate for local governments. He's not afraid to speak up during committee. He was a previous county commissioner, Hernandez, so that's been very refreshing for Pasco to be able to go to and explain it. Because some of the others don't believe that it's doing, have the impact that they are to your budget back home. Trying to explain to them that you are restricted on what you can do with impact fees and these different dollars because of what's in Florida statute. They think we're flush with money sometimes, and that needs to be restricted. So.
Ms. Starkey?
I didn't jump in the fence, but I did run all the way through an airport. I'm going to ask this question of every person that's applying to me. But first, I want to say I have really enjoyed working with your firm. I would agree that every time I call or text or ask questions that I get a quick response. And I personally think that having someone who's local is a great advantage. So you put on 3.48, a detailed description, under this question, a detailed description of any current working relationships which may present a direct conflict of interest with the board's priorities. And so you have listed MedFleet, United Way, YFA, and Duke Energy. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, actually, we both talked about them because I didn't think there were conflicts of interest, so we just need to represent those who we represent. MedFleet was one of the first clients I ever had, but I represent them, not before locally, but I represent them throughout the state and through the legislature. Those are just the clients that we have, and none of them have come into conflict like appropriations or policy, but we wanted you to just be aware of the folks that we have represented here in the county, United Way, YFA, RFA, and MedFleet.
I did not know you represented Duke.
So,
how long have you represented Duke?
Over 25 years.
25 years.
Oh, good. Can I talk to you about trails?
You can.
And Duke corridors?
Remember, he's from Citrus County and
Trails another day.
We might need another little piece, so we can get safe crossing on state road.
Can I speak to that a little bit?
Sure.
Counties inherently have conflicts with their lobbyists. So I represented Citrus County for many years. I did not renew my contract. I told them I was not going to renew my contract because the amount of clients that I had, I got to feel like it was a conflict. Specifically, the behavioral health provider, Lightstream, I've worked for many years, and it's a personal passion of mine to work on those issues. They got $1 billion from Citrus County to build a facility. They get over The negotiations were getting a little tense, and so I said, I just really don't feel like. Plus Duke Energy, even though the relationship has been great forever, there are 2 or 3 clients I have that work with the county, have negotiated with the county, if you will. You know, sometimes there could be some tension there. There hasn't really been a conflict, but with Lightstream it got close. And so frankly, those clients just said, look, if you don't represent the county, we'll pay you more to represent us. And so I had to make a very tough decision, like not to represent Citrus County anymore, but I did that with all the commissioners understanding why I did it. And look, I'm still gonna help Citrus County and Tallahassee anyway. I live there and I love the county. But that's our firm. Like, we think very carefully about, we don't represent developers. You're not gonna hear us come and talk to you about a developer that we're paid to represent. I don't do that in Citrus County, I never have, and I never would. So I think, to your question specifically, as a county commissioner, you have to be careful. You don't want to pay us and have us turn around and use that relationship as someone to pay us to lobby you. And I think you're wise to be careful about that.
Thank you. The other thing I would say, going back to the Live Local fiasco, you know, Sean was there in the meetings with us and walking right along with us, and that took courage, because he has other clients that have issues in front of the Senate. So I respect that you, knowing what's best for the state of Florida and for your county, but really for the state of Florida, that we all hung in there and took it in the back pocket, but it was the right thing to do for our citizens. So I think that, and I'm all about community involvement. And for me, that tells a lot about a person's character when they're giving back to their community. So I appreciate all that you do here in our community. And that, for me, that says a lot about your character.
Sean, I've worked alongside of you for the past 8 years, and I've never had a time that I didn't call you, you didn't call me right back within a short time. I mean, some of the times when we were in Live Local, you weren't able to get back to me within that hour, but you did. So a lot of things were kind of wild at that time. But you know, Live Local itself for us, on that one Live Local project they were talking to us about, we figured out it was like $84 million it would cost the citizens of Pasco County if we allowed that to happen. So, and that just was not good for the citizens of Pasco County, and not being frugal about using the money of the citizens, and we're responsible for that. So we take very much pride in how we spend the money for the citizens of Pasco County, and make sure we do it the right way. I certainly appreciate your closeness with all the commissioners, not just myself, but when we reach out to you with Ralph and the legislative group reached out to you about the different things we're going to present and go forward with for the new year, you're on board with us and following us all the way. So I certainly appreciate everything you've done in the past, and hopefully that'll be the same in the future. So. Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none?
Well, can I bring up the jumping fence story real quick? So my day started yesterday leaving my wife on a cruise in Bahamas. To get back there, I got a notification on Friday that we had this presentation, so I notified the administration there could be, so I left my wife in the Bahamas on the way to the airport. The taxi breaks down. I'm not kidding, it's a 30-minute, you gotta get there 3 hours before. Now my stuff in customs had already been checked, so I thought it was good when we got off there. And so we get going again, and I think we need to get gas. I'm getting close to that 3 hours you have to get there to the international flight. Get there, and what do? They have to go through customs again. Customs finds white substance in a plastic bag. It's creatine. Try to say that in Creole or any other language in the Bahamas was everything got investigated with the creatine. We get to the flight is delayed. My flight then connection I get worried about, so I then pick another flight. We fortunately get through there. I had able to run through the airport where my original flight was getting back to Tampa. I got on there, Tampa out on the tarmac for 25 minutes. I take an Uber home and then realized to get into my gated community, my wife on the cruise who did not have the cell service had to open my gate. So I'm jumping an 8-foot gate, having the Uber driver.
I know that gate.
You know that gate, having the Uber driver giving my luggage over the gate and then walking a quarter mile to my house down the street at 12:30 in the morning. So I jumped an 8-foot gate to be here with you all today.
I think it's only 2 hours for international.
Well, I wasn't taking any chances.
I will coach you up.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you still married now that you?
We're still married, we are still married, and, yes. Thank you guys very much.
I noticed one more thing in here, no, it's not a question, just a comment, it's about Andrew. This may be good in this next, session with his background as a public adjuster in insurance. So, I think things are gonna be getting hot and heavy on insurance and all that.
Absolutely.
And I'd say working with Andrew and Sean was really good in Louisville. There was one time when we're in the office, we're looking at one hearing that's going on in the Senate. They say, you gotta go to the House. Then from one to the other, escorted me to get there just in time. So that type of.
Yeah, we're all set there.
Good.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next presentation, they are here. If you'd like to start a few moments early, you can go get them, or if you'd like to break until 2, if you're scheduled, that's your call.
So,
Yeah. All right, I'll be right back. Mr. Chair, we have the Advocacy Partners here, and just to remind them, you will have 30 minutes of uninterrupted presentation and up to 30 minutes for questions and answers. We'll go ahead and turn it over.
Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. It is, thank you for the opportunity to present for you. It is honestly great to be in Bay City. My name is Slater Bayless. I'm with the Advocacy Partners, and I'm here with 3 of my partners. The 4 partners in our firm are here today to present to you. It's fun to be back here. I'll say Commissioner Mariano, Commissioner Starkey. It's always a pleasure to see familiar faces. I commend both of you for your enduring commitment to the people of Pasco County. Commissioner Whiteman, good to see you up on the dais. It is people of Pasco County are fortunate to have you. And Commissioner Yeager, although we haven't met before, we're thrilled the governor's appointed you to serve the people of Pasco County, and thank you for your service to our state. Stand before you today to talk to you about your advocacy needs in Tallahassee. And I think fundamentally, it's important to talk a little bit about what a lobbyist is and what a lobbyist does. Fortunately, in addition to being a lobbyist, I'm an adjunct professor at Florida State. And my students often ask me, they say, Professor Bayless, what is a lobbyist? So what I say is, in order to understand what a lobbyist does, first we have to understand what lobbying is. Now there's a lot of connotations, obviously, in the media that come out from the Jack Abramoff situation, etc., that paint a certain picture of what a lobbyist is and what public officials are, that I think most of you who have served in public office know is not necessarily the case. Obviously, in any profession, there are a few bad apples. In Tallahassee, we are in fact the Sunshine State, and big believers that sunshine is the best disinfectant for bad things in public life. And so one thing that we focus very, very stringently on is to do things the right way. It's always the right thing to do the right thing. But in the most basic form, lobbying, and I'm certain all of you have been lobbied. I get lobbied from my kids often, but is trying to persuade someone, in this case government, or to influence a policy direction, which would be spending decisions or administrative actions. So lobbyist is someone who helps their clients articulate those to the right person at the right time with the right message to influence those outcomes in a way that is positive for the people that they serve. So therefore, by definition, a lobbyist is super unique, right? Because in doing those things, we are effectively petitioning our government. Therefore, we're one of the few constitutionally protected professions in the entire country based on the First Amendment to the Constitution. And we take that very, very seriously. So the baseline kind of established, tell my students to try to connect with them a little bit better that really, as a lobbyist, we're like the original version of an influencer. except we're not on TikTok or Instagram. But like influencers on TikTok or Instagram, the real key to being a lobbyist, or being an influencer in this case, is to be trusted. Because if you're not trusted, people aren't going to go along with you for what you're trying to do, because they're going to be skeptical of that. So, very, very important to us, and you'll hear that throughout our presentation several times today. It's a cornerstone of our firm. And you know, we don't, like influencers, we don't peddle eye cream or vitamin supplements, but what we try to do is to make sure that those in important policy-making positions in the government don't make those decisions without at least understanding what our clients' perspectives are regarding the ramifications and the potential unintended consequences of those actions. So with that kind of baseline established, I'd like to pivot to why, as a county, would it be a good idea to have a lobbyist? Right? You've got a local delegation, you've all spent a lifetime in public life in one way or another, and I think my answer for that would be a lobbyist is someone who can, while you're here running Pasco County and taking care of your families and your community, a lobbyist is someone in Tallahassee who can make sure that the potential unintended consequences of legislative action don't negatively impact the board and the citizens of Pasco County. So there's a saying in Tallahassee, and I'm assuming they have the saying in Washington, D.C. as well, that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And the fact of the matter is that if you're not in the right room at the right time to articulate the consequences of a legislative action, you may just be the loser in that situation. So the second reason would be to bring you back intelligence about what other counties are doing, what people on the other side of issues are thinking, etc., in a conversation that oftentimes won't take place in a public committee, but happens in a back hallway of the Capitol, which helps recalibrate what type of negotiation you can come up with on a piece of public policy. And then the third reason, and I think for us it's maybe the best value that we bring to our public clients, is to develop, implement, and execute strategies to bring state and federal taxpayer dollars back to the people of Pasco County. So for us, as our firm, the combination of our understanding of the issues, our strong relationships, our expertise, and frankly, our character, I think is what our clients would tell you sets us apart from many lobbying firms in Tallahassee. But before we get too far, I think we've got a total of 30 minutes here for the presentation and some time after 30 for question and answer. On a personal note, I would be remiss if I didn't thank the board, in particular Commissioner Starkey and Commissioner Mariano. At the very kind of beginning of our firm's history, we had the privilege of representing Pasco County from 2005 to 2013, and incredibly grateful for that work, and really, we were talking about it last week, certainly proud of our collective accomplishments during those times, which is articulated in the written response. But I sincerely believe, as we hold into Pasco County today, that the people of Pasco County, particularly on the state roads, are far better off than they were in the early 2000s. So big shout out to the board and for all the important work that you've done there. And we're blessed to be a part of it. But at the same time, as a firm who's been around for about 20 years and still has the first two clients that let us open up our business, it stung when we were not, when we didn't win the re-procurement to represent you. And, as we thought about this, a lot of time has passed. Our firm has grown, the county has certainly grown, and we think it's a really good time to come back and compete for your business. We feel very blessed to be here. And if we do have the privilege of representing you again, you've got the guarantee from the four partners in our firm that once again we would do so with integrity, professionalism, and pragmatism. So that back to the kind of the meat of our presentation. You will hear from 3 lobbying firms today. I believe you've heard from one of them already. You'll hear from one of Florida's largest firms. You'll hear from one of Florida's smallest firms. And you'll hear from our firm, which I think is the state's top boutique lobbying firm. Now, from my perspective, and to borrow from one of the great literary works of all time, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, we believe we're the perfect porridge. Not too hot, not too cold. In this case, not too big, not too small. It's not an accident that we're a boutique firm. Back when we worked for the county previously, we were one of the smallest firms. We never wanted to be one of the largest firms. And we've built our firm, I think, to be more like the Navy SEALs, less like the British Royal Navy, but able to accomplish the same thing, maybe a little quieter, and with a little more precision, but accomplish the same thing. And despite our boutique platform, we constantly rank in the top 10 in the state of lobbying term revenue. Now, unlike many firms, we believe in our DNA that municipal governments are entitled to the same sophisticated government relations work that Fortune 500 companies have access to. Albeit, for us, we believe that it should be done at a discounted rate. We call it the government rate. Having said that, we do limit, for a variety of reasons, our representation of municipal clients. Ultimately, when it comes to budgeting practice, we find that if you have a multitude of people and clients in one particular budgeting space, your ability to be influential for them is diminished because they're essentially competing against one another. So we take a regional approach to the way that we represent municipal governments. Our two current clients are Okaloosa County and Lee County. We also represent Ocala in the middle, a little different from a city perspective. But we really do strive for balance in that type of situations. So now if you'd indulge me, I have the privilege, I get to introduce one of my greatest friends in the entire world, and one of the finest people I've ever met, my colleague and co-founding partner of our firm, Stephen Shiver. And Stephen's going to tell you a little bit about what we think makes our firm special, and that's the people. The people of our firm are the most important thing that we have. Now, Stephen has done a lot in politics, and if you know people who know him, they will tell you he's done it all the right way. He's worked for a Speaker of the House, he's worked for a Senate President, and he's worked for a governor. In fact, he began it all down here in Pasco County, working on a special election for Ken Littlefield. If anyone remembers Representative Littlefield, he was a great public servant. Stephen worked his way up in the House Majority Leader's office, where he assisted the leader with implementation of the party's agenda and the whip operations and floor activities. He subsequently served in a speaker's office, where he served as a policy advisor to the speaker and coordinated all of the legislative briefings with stakeholders. And additionally, he served as the executive director of the Republican Party of Florida in one of the most successful presidential elections we've ever had in this state. So with Stephen, the pattern is simple. Policymakers and influential people rely on Stephen time and time again for his candid advice and his political acumen. So with that, I'm going to introduce my partner, Stephen Shiver, to tell you about the rest of our team.
Thank you, Slade. Commissioners, thank you so very much for allowing us to be here today. Slater's right, one of my first professional jobs was here in Pasco County, and boy, I learned a lot. But I appreciate, our entire firm appreciates being here today. And I think one of the messages that you'll hear from time to time again is we're a very purposely built firm. Slater mentioned back probably 15 years ago, we had to make a determination what type of firm were we going to be, lobbying firms and how they interacted with their clients when we bought them. The old model used to be law firms. It began to turn into maybe more just sort of lobbying practitioners. And so we needed to make a decision. What are we going to look like as a firm that we bought? And so what we've done, and I'm so proud to be a part of this firm, what we've done is we've gone and we have, I think, successfully and luckily gotten to work with different individuals with different backgrounds that can access every area of state government that any of our clients would need, from executive branch experience to legislative experience to across the board. And so we are thrilled to be able to be here today. What is the best way to slide? Oh, is it here? There we go. As I mentioned, we are literally about quality, not quantity. That is something that's super important to our firm. As Slater mentioned, I joined the firm in 2004. One of the neat things about all these individuals that you'll see, and I'll be brief, we've got some really good things to talk about, is everyone in our firm, this is the only lobby firm they've ever done. They've never worked at another lobby firm. Tallahassee and lobby firms are known for turnover. They're known for a little bit of inconsistency with your personnel, not our firm. And it was important that each individual that we wanted to work with and work together could collectively give the same commitment to our clients that they give each other in our firm. As Slater mentioned, Slater and I are, I guess you could consider, co-founding partners of the firm. Slater began his work working under Governor Bush. Slater, as I mentioned, Slater and I have been there for 20 years now. Worked for Governor Bush in a couple of different arenas. Was his, obviously started as his personal travel aide, I think, early on. Worked at the Republican Party of Florida. Is an adjunct professor, which he puts his heart and soul into for those young individuals looking to get into politics. He's also a member of the Florida Prepaid College Board by an appointee of the governor, Governor DeSantis, Military Service Academy Nominating Commission by Senator Rubio as well. Sarah Susky, who would also be the co-lead, should we be honored to be able to work with you. Slater and Sarah will serve as co-leads for you all. Sarah has been with our firm for over 15 years, and Sarah, as I can acutely say, is involved in almost every matter that we work on as a firm. And there's consistency in communications, and Sarah is at the point of communications with all of our clients. And we have found there are expectations, but communications are just as important with the client relationship as there are expectations. So Sarah helps us with that on almost every client that we have. Has worked for an inaugural committee, worked for a statewide elected official, worked for the Senate president back in a previous administration, also worked for the Republican Party of Florida and has been a delegate at the RNC convention a couple of times now. Chris Jamie, who thrilled to be able to work with. He's going to talk to you a little bit about how we hopped in and helped the county in significant need later in the presentation. Chris has been with us for 10 years, served Governor Scott, has served, served former Governor Scott, Senator Scott in a number of different capacities as a chief of staff to an agency, and worked on his campaign. He also worked at the party, Republican Party as well. Alex Poitras, who some of you may have communicated with on your staff. Alex is the director of research for us. She has worked with a number of different lobby firms in Tallahassee. She joined us a couple of years ago. She has worked for a number of different members of the state house as well. And so Alex is pretty much at the point of the spear on anything we do service-wise for clients, whether it be research, whether it be appropriations work, whether it be any communications that we need to have with staff on client priorities, particularly in the local government space. Alex is probably the most professional in that regard that we've ever had at our firm in 20 years. Steve Shale, who was unable to be here today. Steve is probably one of the more prominent, if not the most prominent, Democrat lobbyist in the state of Florida, certainly in Tallahassee. He joined us roughly 6 years ago. Just a tremendous individual, has done presidential work at the highest levels for President Obama, President Biden, has done work in the Democrat space for the entire time. And his presence in our firm, his wisdom with his background give us a unique, I think, advantage in being one of the truly bipartisan firms in the state of Florida. And that's something that many clients find invaluable. And so Steve's a big part of what we do every single day. And then lastly, Jeff Woodward, who joined us about 6 years ago. Jeff has a prolific state government career, worked for several governors, was the policy director for Governor DeSantis' campaign, helped Jimmy Petronas in his transition to becoming chief financial officer and our state treasurer. He also serves as our firm's general counsel. Jeff is brought in on almost all matters that we work on as well. I do want to talk a little bit, and then I'll turn it over to Sarah, but I do want to talk a little bit. Slater's right. I mean, we've made a conscious decision to be a boutique firm. And I think that's important. It's important because of the relationships we have with our clients is the number one thing that we attune to every single day. If you don't have a positive relationship and a communicative relationship with your clients and vice versa, then eventually the relationship, the working relationship will break down. we are, but our firm is unique in the sense too that we represent some of the largest companies in the country. Anheuser-Busch, Marriott, AT&T, Starbucks, IBM, Walt Disney World. Those are really, really top 5, top 10 companies in the world. We also represent though emerging technologies like Waymo and Oz Digital Consulting and TechNet, which are really at the forefront of a lot of our technology that state government's grappling with today. We represent nonprofits. We think it's really, really important that those individuals and organizations have the same voice as those, Fortune 100 companies. The Cleveland Clinic, Nurse Family Partnership, Nokia Hungary. Those are really, really important clients of ours that we treat just the same as we do as those Fortune 100 companies. And we feel like that's at the pinnacle of what we do in terms of working for our clients. And then lastly, as Slater mentioned, and I'm going to turn it over to Sarah, we're really proud of our public sector clients. And we're really proud of the group that we get to work with and how we work with them. And in a more limited fashion so that we are not spread thin on our public sector work, and we can actually dive in and do great work for them. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Sarah, and you can talk about some of our public government work.
All right, well, hello, and again, thank you guys for the opportunity to present to you. I just want to reiterate the fact that, we loved working for Pasco County for many years, and we would really love to have the business again. I think you guys are doing some amazing things in this community. We know that you've got some challenges ahead with hurricane recovery, the devastating flooding that this region has seen, and our hearts are with you guys, and we would love to be able to help you rebuild that bigger and better. But I want to emphasize the fact that we have all 4 partners of our firm here. We came down because this is very important to us, and we would really love to be able to earn your business again. I see some familiar faces around here, a couple of commissioners, and just wanted to reiterate a little bit about kind of our representation of the county several years ago. We worked on a variety of issues, hard to recall all of them right now, but there's certainly, you guys still, I believe, have some growth management issues that you're working through, some tax issues, and also some appropriations. You don't have to go through all of those one by one, but I think it's certainly, those are issues that we would love to be able to help with again. And to Stephen and Slater's point, we've also represented Port of Tampa Bay, City of Ocala, and Okaloosa County, both for all 3 for over 10 years. And our experience has told us that when you know one local government, you know one local government. So we would want to take a very, and I'll switch to the next slide here, a very deliberate process through getting to know, again, the needs of Pasco County. Certainly you guys have a wonderful staff, and we would want to sit down and collaboratively work through what your goals would be for the 2025 legislative session and develop a strategy to implement those goals. But communication is really the key to any strategy. We need to make sure that expectations are being met on all sides of the aisle, whether it be from our work, information that we need from the county, what the legislature is doing. And so it would be very, very important for throughout this process, leading up to session and especially during session, to have regular calls set. We will, during session, provide a weekly, at least, update via email on legislation that is moving, what's going on with appropriations requests, etc. And for those of you who have been around the legislative process long enough, you know that appropriations are hurry up and wait for a very long time. And things are happening behind the scenes, but there isn't necessarily a concrete update that can be given until closer to the end of session. So, patience is a virtue in that case, but we know that you guys understand that very well. But I do want to let you know, and I think said it multiple times in our proposal that we submitted, but
especially during committee weeks in session, we will be available to you guys at all times. And that's for a phone call, for answering an email, etc., because it's important and things move very quickly during the legislative session. But so right now, if you were to select our firm, if we were fortunate to be chosen, we would immediately schedule an onboarding call, introduce the county and your staff to the rest of our team who were not able to be here with us today. And then we would begin the work of refining the priorities that you guys have for the 2025 session. I have no doubt that you've already begun developing those. But, you know, helping refine those and make sure we've got the correct targets in mind. And then we can get to work pretty quickly carrying out those strategies. You know, we have represented Pasco County, we know the community, we love the community, and I think that we have the ability to hit the ground running with your delegation, who we'll talk about a little bit more, as well as other members of the legislature who are, you know, in key leadership positions around the state. All right, I keep forgetting about this. Okay, so a strategy for advocacy. So advocacy is our specialty. It's in the name of our firm for a reason, the Advocacy Partners. Our clients rely on us to be their eyes and ears on the ground in Tallahassee when they can't be there. And we pride ourselves in our ability to see around the corner on issues that are important to our clients. And we achieve results by delivering the right message from the right person at the right time to the right person. So sometimes, you know, we've got 160 members of the legislature, we've got a couple of really key decision makers, and Chris might have been just wailing on a member of the legislature and say, Sarah, I can't go to this chairman today because I've just, you know, asked for everything I possibly could. Can you go ask for this on behalf of the client? And that's one thing that I love about our firm is we are a team, we are a family, we work together, we constantly communicate with one another, and we all have different relationships that we deploy on behalf of all of our clients and would certainly do that on behalf of Pasco County. So even though, you know, Slater and I might be your main point of contact, I want you to know that every single member of our firm will be dedicated to the success of Pasco County and will be involved in everything that goes on. All right, so I have the most slides of anybody, so I just, you know, I think I win on that. So monitoring and reporting. Back to our team approach to representing our clients. We meet every single week during session, during committee weeks, to go through everything that each of us individually, we go around the table, what we have going on that week. And that is really important because we can't be in multiple places at once. I can only be in one committee meeting, I can only be in one member's office at one time, but when my team members, my family here, know what I'm working on, they're keeping an ear out for what's going on. And so that would be the case for Pasco County. Everybody would be aware of what we're working on. And so we've got multiple ears. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'll speed it up a little bit here. But we would have a very disciplined system of monitoring, reporting, going through bills, seeing what is going to impact the county, communicating with your staff, because they know better than any of us could ever hope to know what a change in statute, a change of a word or a comma might mean on the ground in reality. So having communication with you and your staff and a constant feedback loop of reporting is the only way that we can be successful on your behalf. And so part of the way that we can be successful on your behalf is through our relationships with leadership in both the House and Senate and the executive branch. We think that we have incredibly good relationships on every level of state government, and that's part of the strategic makeup of our firm, we have selected different people to, who have really good relationships at all levels of state government. And we understand that relationships and your reputation are A, very, very hard to build, and B, very easy to lose. And so we invest a great deal of energy in building relationships and maintaining our reputations in Tallahassee. And we're confident that we are known by every member of your delegation, every member of the legislature, as well as our colleagues in other lobbying firms as honest brokers, effective advocates, and sometimes worthy adversaries. And you know, that's just the nature of our business. We have to go head to head with people, but we try and do it with kindness and with a great amount of integrity. And we have strong relationships with every single member of your legislative delegation. We've worked on legislation with most of them. And we also have great relationships with our incoming Speaker of the House, Danny Perez, our incoming Senate President, Ben Albritton, and the members who will follow them that we anticipate, as well as our own Senator Ed Hooper, who will likely be the Appropriations Chair in the Senate this year, as well as Representative Lawrence McClure, who will likely be the House Appropriations Chair. We call them all very good friends. And because of those relationships, we have we've been able to achieve a great deal of success on behalf of all of our clients, local governments in particular, Ocala and Okaloosa. We've represented, like I said, for well over 10 years. You know, I don't need to go through all of the appropriations projects that we've assisted in securing, but, you know, I think they are, all right.
That's your time.
That's my time?
That's what we're getting nervous about.
Yes. Water quality, transportation issues, some healthcare, et cetera. So a lot of really good. Oh, it is? Yes. For the whole thing?
Yes, that's your 30 minutes.
We started there.
You're done.
Oh, my
Now
gosh.
we start.
I'm so sorry.
You had one typo I noticed, Ed Hooper is in Pasco County.
Yeah, he moved, he's in my
He moved.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he lives there. Yes, I knew that. Yep.
Questions? Yes.
I have a question. Do any of you live in Pasco County?
No, we are purposefully all in the state capital. We all live in Tallahassee. Every single person in our firm lives in Tallahassee, Florida. Yes, ma'am.
Is Mr. Cardenas retired, or is he still working with you guys, or what's the?
No, Commissioner Al retired about 2 years ago from our firm, and hence the name change from the Advocacy Group of Cardenas Partners to the Advocacy Partners.
Okay, I didn't know.
Thank you, Chair. Slater, good to see you. So, I don't know if you followed our all-in boxing match over at Live Local last year. And just as we were kind of nervous and uncomfortable about it, I think anybody representing our county would have been too, due to the nature of the relationship, especially taking on the priority bill of the Senate President or any leadership, right? And what we learned, I think, from each other locally, that we're not afraid to give up key appropriations. Like I had second phase of sidewalks be vetoed for one of the most dangerous places for kids to walk to school in Pasco County. So we knew that there was, uphill battles, and we would probably not be successful with a few things because we fought the fight for not just our citizens, but we realized this is a bigger picture on in Florida. So knowing that, and knowing the makeup of this board and the tenacity of this board, if we come up, say, Amendment 5, which I'm concerned about, I think it's very similar complications to it, like with local and unintended consequences with how local governments tax their folks, and how, if we choose to try to mitigate taxes or increases, that it could have an adverse effect based on the structure of this amendment. If that were to be the case, and we were, decide to tackle it and collectively agree, working with Ralph, they were willing to probably
accept the fact our priorities may be vetoed, how would y'all manage those types of situations with local government as the legislature continues to erode home rule in the way we govern ourselves? You know, we understand your business and how you make your business, but you could have a fiercely client like Pasco, kind of go in a different direction than other people.
I'll start, Commissioner. I appreciate the question, and kind of to Sarah's closing comments there.
We pride ourselves in being very tenacious advocates. I had a mentor early on who told me, Slater, it's always the right thing to do the right thing. And if you're always doing the right thing and you're doing it for the right reasons, it's defensive. So if a local government that we represent has a problem with something that's the governor or the speaker or the Senate president's priority, our job is to go in there and try to make it much better, to work with the stakeholders to make it better. And there's a variety of strategies that flow from after you do that, whether you're successful or not, that become a collaboration. And I think that's where you're very, very fortunate, Pasco, to have both Ralph and Jeff. I mean, two of the most thoughtful people in terms of making some lemonade that I've ever known. But one thing maybe that could help you, we could illuminate that a little bit, is have Chris Cheney tell you a little bit about how we handled Lee County, which we had the storm. We were very successful from an appropriations perspective. And then the next year came, and we had to kind of work through the politics of how all that would work. So, Chris, maybe that'll help get to this point.
Absolutely. Thanks, Slater. Thank you, commissioners. Look, Slater, your point is well taken. You're not always going to be on the same page as the state legislature, and you may have very, very important asks in front of them at the same time. And I think it's important how you go about your work when you're working proactively to accomplish something. It's also important how you go about your work when you're opposing something and trying to improve part of the process. In 2022, in September, Hurricane Ian made landfall in Lee County, worst natural disaster in Southwest Florida's history. It's the time of the county's greatest need. They turned to our firm 2 months later, hired us, brought us on, and the team, all hands on deck approach. Working with the commissioners and staff and the delegation, we're able to accomplish some really great things. At that same time, Live Local was working its way through the process. And there were concerns, just no two ways about it. Zoning is very important. And so, that Board of County Commissioners made a very similar decision. There was a lot on the table. It was very important. We had to talk to the Senate President about something that was very important to her. We made our concerns known, and at the end of the day, I think we were able to do so in a respectful way, and it preserved a lot of what we were looking for. And so there's a way to go about your work without burning all the bridges along the way, pun intended. I hope that answers.
Okay. Mr. Morales, and I want to say, working with Slater from way back when, did a great job for us. There was one time where we had probably new people at the MPO didn't quite understand how it all should play out with others. And when we went for an appropriation for US 19 for a whole bunch of money, and they got approved through both branches of the House and Senate. And when it came to the governor vetoed it, and Slater gave us an education about it's a journey. We worked in the MPO, went through, go through the process, get it, and then within 2 years, we ended up with millions to redo 19, put the sidewalks up and all. So you definitely have expertise way down. When I look at trust, gentlemen, Slater also is like, he usually quotes really good people. Like I'm waiting for Machiavelli. Instead I got Richard Sullivan, Robert Sullivan. It's a little surprising this Slater, but that means you've got a good range. Right? But I thought it was going to happen, but Chris, you kind of like, let us slide with there. Sarah's presentation, her next slide was going to be $8 million that we got for Lee County. And I thought you were going there. But you're right there.
I'm happy to jump back in there.
If you would, because that's how we so talk about how you got the $8 million.
So, one of my favorite things to talk about. So,
I'm actually from Southwest Florida, actually. I grew up on Sanibel, if anybody's familiar with that area. And so representing my neck of the woods is a real privilege and honor for me. And for them to turn us in their time of grace was just awesome. And as you know, you folks and the citizens of Pasco County are dealing with hurricane recovery right now. And there are things that take place. Revenue stops coming in at the same rate that it does. Bills keep piling up. In Lee County's case, they were astronomical. So these numbers, those are direct appropriations to the county. And some of them are for specific projects, like the Larry Piper Preserve water management issue. That wasn't necessarily a storm issue. Sanibel Causeway repair, Mapleshade Corridor, bridges and roads, Big Hickory, Little Hickory, those are all hurricane-related responses. And they represent the legislature funding the local match that's required by the federal government. And it was impaired. I mean, the county had no ability to pay these bills. And what happens, and you're experiencing this right now, is the federal government shows up with FEMA, with the state, with your locals, and they start doing work, and they need to. The fact that they got Sanibel Causeway up and as fast as they did is absolutely incredible. And the work of hardening is still going on. But that $51 million right there represents the county match. We couldn't pay it. And so we were able, the legislature saw the wisdom in helping the county, they had to do it. Something that I think is important to consider, it's not just what's on there from a direct appropriations, which the county commission did an awesome job in working towards and securing, and we were grateful to play a small part. What's not listed is a 0% loan fund that we worked with the commission, we worked with our legislative leadership to create a pot of money that's a revolving loan fund of $350 million that DEM manages, that not only Lee County, but all of the local municipalities from within can draw upon as well. Because there were things like, these are bills that were coming that you don't have a question, there's not a question of whether or not you do it. Like, the feds are doing the work, the bills come, we have to get paid. But there are other things that they had to prioritize, and we just didn't know. We knew there was a lot more need, we didn't know exactly what. And so we were able to work with legislative leadership to kind of come up with a plan to allow the locals to access these funds, during that fiscal year later as they were becoming available. And then further, we then worked and the team was involved with this as well. We worked with the governor's office and with Commissioner Guthrie to make it basically a revolving loan fund. And so as the funds were being repaid, they actually came to us and said, hey, what more does Lee County need? What are some things that are coming up right now that happen? And that relationship, or that process, was born from the relationship that we built with those folks over the years. And so, real proud of the work that we did there. As these things go, they're multi-year efforts, and so we're still going to continue to talk about it, but that's the kind of thing that you'll be able to count on from us, is getting where the puck is going, having the key relationships with folks that we've made these friends before and we're proud of all of them.
So, Mr. Chairman, when I look at, and I drove down to Fort Myers Beach, my Rotary division brought like 4 truckloads of things, supplies going down there. That devastation was just unbelievable. So for you to focus on that and be able to parlay that, I will say our coast right now, devastated up and down. Homes flooded out, and we got people that are going through the FEMA rules, the 49% that we have. We only have a year for us calculations to go, but the uncertainty that the federal government has thrown on us is something else, and the improvements we can make in infrastructure is going to be out there, and I think it's an important thing to look at. And maybe with surplus money or other funds to get it to make work, I think that's going to be a big asset with that. You also had one group that helped us get a storm shelter with Volusia for about $5 million. Now, we've seen the EOC. I mean, I think what we saw this year with the EOC, we made a bad decision by not having with Kikuchi, Duke, and Tico in the room. And because of space and requirements, we didn't get to go to that. I think this is something that they've got experience pulling it through. It's something we can go to. If we need help going to let's say DC, we may trust up there. I'm sure you guys have pretty good connections up there. You mentioned it a little bit, but I know we're just talking about the state today, but there's a possibility we could probably look to have your help in that as well, I would think. So all that said, with what I've seen them do, I mean, I'm just very, very impressed. Slade's always been super professional. Actually, a great hiring person too. Hard for about years. And she loved working there. You get her so professional, so great to her, and just the way. It was funny. A couple times I go up there, I'm watching her just like you've got her iPad out, just like taking the notes of the minutes. Like, wow, how do you do that? And she would just like transcribe and go. So I know they get the boots on the ground to get all the information back, which we get really on. So I know you do a great job. I think in light of what we got going on, I see some big things.
Thank you, Commissioner.
That's my turn, I think. And great to see you guys.
Thank you.
Going through your client list, you do have a lot. That's good, and then it makes me nervous if you're really gonna, I'm a prolific texter, you're really gonna get back to me, put me on block.
No, it's a good search.
But I have a question on some of the clients that you have, just because you know, we're a very fast-growing county, and we keep finding that some of our ability to control our own destiny in the housing world keeps getting taken away from us. And we talked about the Live Local, which we fought very hard, knowing that we have our appropriation strip. But we also came up against some bills where they took away our ability to say have certain kind of architectural details, you know, have quality development. That ability was taken away from us, and I think there are more bills coming that will handcuff us. So I'm just wondering if you have any big developers that we will have to take on if they're going to try and push that again. Because I don't know who CDS Housing is and Landmark Properties. Can you tell me who these companies are?
Yeah, absolutely. Commissioner, thank you. Excellent question. Listen, I want to address the core of your question first, which is conflicts. And if I know, I would hope you know this, that is all we have in this business, and that is central to our firm is our integrity. And so we have a pretty simple way to handle conflicts. We never knowingly take on a client that has a conflict with another client. Inevitably, clients get into different businesses, different commissions elected, things change. So in that case, we immediately disclose to both clients within the parameters of what we can disclose. And then that leads to a very honest conversation. And there are a couple of different options, and for different situations we've deployed, it really becomes the client's choice. But in some situations, we'll build up a Chinese wall within our firm. One person will handle one client, another person will handle another client, and that's that. In some cases, we'll be on a team. So for instance, we are on the AT&T team. And if in the past, in our past representation of the county, AT&T and Pasco had a situation, I talked to Jeff about it, if memory serves, or maybe it was Mr. Gallagher at the time, one of the two. And he said, look, I'd prefer if you didn't work on this for AT&T. And we went to AT&T and said, hey, we're sitting this one out, Pasco's on the other side. And so there's a variety of different ways that we can handle that, but it has to be done transparently. Now, the third thing I'll tell you in this situation is oftentimes we find out that we're in a unique position to figure out exactly what the two entities really need and come up with a compromise that either involves the legislature or sometimes doesn't involve the legislature. So in a lot of cases, I think it ends up being it can end up being a positive situation.
Okay.
And now the two companies, I'm sorry, that you asked specifically.
CDS Housing and Landmark Properties.
Yeah, Landmark Properties is a multi-family housing developer who basically develops apartments on near college campuses. And Stephen may want to talk to CDS, but it's really a Southwest Florida housing developer.
It's a regional developer.
Okay.
They're not in this area.
But do they want, take away home rule on development too? So we're against that. Just let you know.
Yeah, understood.
and I will tell you, Commissioner, you may recall in our previous representation at the time we were representing Lennar, which there were some issues, and we no longer represent Lennar.
Yeah, and they were very much behind. relationships and all that. And looking at this, they're creating a bipartisan regional coalition to support the port's efforts to maximize federal infrastructure funding. You may or may not be aware of what we're trying to do up here, and that's a regional MPO. We have not been able to bring down any big federal money for big growth projects because frankly, Hillsborough County wasn't playing along with everybody. And we think we're getting closer, but that statement means a lot to me. That you can help bring different.
Just a quick comment, that the infrastructure, for our ports in the state, the infrastructure inside of the state is just as important as the port itself. Because we can have things brought in, if we don't have the infrastructure to get it to our communities, by way of commodities or what have you, then you know, we're hamstrung. And so all of the major deepwater ports have worked together, Port Tampa Bay being the leader, which is our client, one of the leaders of that coalition to help do that. So that's very important. That's an ongoing discussion at the state. The governor's office that's a long-term problem, and we need immediate and long-term solutions by way of funding, because the infrastructure is key in the central part of the state.
And we have to do our part to be able to speak with one voice so that we can apply for the funds. And I know I've been to Washington many times, they're waiting for our application, but until we speak with one voice, we're not gonna get it. It's very frustrating.
Well said, Commissioner. Now, to kind of underscore Stephen's comments and to come back to earlier, this is why we have Steve Shale. Steve Shale, people look at him and say, hey, you're a Democrat in Tallahassee, supermajority's Republican, all statewide Republican. But what Steve has is the ability to talk with all the big blue county leadership and build trust there. And that was a big piece of that project, is having the big blue counties buy into what our clients who are in red counties wanted to do. And it was Steve who really helped us broker all that through trust and through relationships. So that was I think a really good example of some of the work that Steve does for us.
So I guess I'm kind of asking the same question that I asked the first one in a roundabout way, because I want to ask each one that you don't have any clients here that might be lobbying for something directly. Well, I'm not saying that. Okay, you go for it.
We have some lobbyists that represent clients that actually are reaching out for the same money as we are for our county to use in a development in our county. And most times, a lot of times that happens where if they get that money, people and we lose other items that we're asking for ourselves, and we lose that money to that development, we're actually losing money that we want to spend for our citizens for our priority issues. And that's happened in the past. But when you speak to somebody about it in Tallahassee, that went to Pasco County. Well, it went through Pasco County, but to me, I have a pet peeve about that. I want money spent to the citizens or for the citizens here in Pasco County. You can speak about that.
Sure, I'm happy to. So that's a very big deal, and something that we're very conscious of is having the number of asks that we have per chairman, appropriations chairman for the House and Senate Speaker and President. And I will tell you that I have full confidence in this, in our firm, that we would not pursue an appropriation on behalf of another client that was in direct conflict with Pasco County. No ifs, ands, or buts about that at all.
All of us will. We have certain asks we try to get every year, but we're all asking for the same funds out of the state. So the fact of it is, we're very secure about what we want, and we lose out on sidewalk projects and other projects that we can't get, but then a developer gets a project through that serves as a development, but it doesn't necessarily serve all the citizens of Pasco County, and that's what we're interested in, serve all the citizens.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Chairman, if I might, to elaborate on Sarah's response, and some of you may know this, but in Tallahassee, no appropriation happens by accident. And so the foundational first step that has to happen is a state senator or a state representative has to file a request and put their signature on it. And then typically there's a contact person on there there is a contact person, and in many cases that will be the lobbyist. So it would be, there's a pretty good set of checks and balances on there. A, for your delegation, to very clearly understand what the county's goals are, and to pick up the phone and call you or your lobbyist at that point. And then B, there's obviously the lobbyist kind of catching that there might be a little glitch in the matrix in this case, where the money should go to Pasco County, but it shouldn't be a passenger, it should be for the board's priorities.
Chair. Well, Mr. White, thank you. Slater and team. So obviously, Pasco got whacked by a storm. We're dealing with challenges that our residents and this government have to face. So, looking towards the future, insurance is going to be a problem. There's going to be a lot of folks in this county, seniors, families that may not be able to go back. People who have never seen flooding or flooded, so they're making homeowners insurance claims. And I fully anticipate rates jumping next year a lot again. So as those, folks are going to call us, they're going to call their government, anybody they can, to try to figure out how to manage it. Do any of y'all have experience with working with the legislature on true insurance reform, tort reform, what have you? It's just a big picture conversation that needs to happen, and that our residents will be up against it.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. So we do, is the short answer. Our firm has the privilege of representing Century Insurance. They're one of the largest mutual insurance companies in the country. They do not write residential property insurance in Florida. They write commercial property insurance. They're the second largest issuer of non-standard auto in the state. And so all the tort reform rules were very good. You may remember 2 sessions ago under Speaker Renner, big priority of his, and the Senate President, Catherine Pasco, they passed the most comprehensive tort reform that's been passed in the capital since probably.
It didn't go far.
I would probably agree with you, and I think what we're hearing from the carriers is that you're starting to see these things being priced in, and you're starting to see a little bit of a flattening out. That's what we're hopeful for. Ahead of the passage of the legislation, there was like a firm date. Anything that wasn't filed by end state, old rules for the stuff that was filed, the new rules under the tort reform and so there was an absolute tidal wave of litigation that was filed. And the courts are still today working through it. We are hearing from at least our clients that the environment is much better. The plaintiff's attorneys are settling at lower rates. We expect that to work its way into premiums that your citizens will end up paying. We also represent Associated Industries in Florida. There are, and I'll let Steve talk a little bit about this, but they're a business association that has been on the tip of the spear of the tort reform conversation for a long time.
Yeah, Commissioner, it's a problem. There's no question. And it gets back to affordable housing, gets back to individuals, particularly after storms, being able to get back on their feet. The carriers know, they see the urgency behind it. They hear it both politically and from a policy standpoint. The reinsurance market has adjusted in such a way where they're hopeful that between some of the reforms that Chris has talked about, organizations like Associated Industries of Florida are at the forefront of trying to make sure that the policies that the legislature passed, was it 2 years ago? And that there will be improving policy. They'll have to make some adjustments based on the storms. We also anticipate in some form or fashion, everyone wants to know, you've seen one session, everyone wants to know what are the priorities this year for the 2025 session. That's going to be at the top, is looking at what they did in the performance that Chris mentioned out of the marketplace. That's going to be super important. 2, there will likely be some sort of hurricane response. I have no idea what that looks like. Quite candidly, Tallahassee's will focus on 2025 after next Tuesday. We'll know candidly who the appropriation chairs will be, who the policy chairs will be around insurance. But reform will continue to be talked about, Jim. And we are involved tangentially in those conversations.
Thank you.
So you did talk about it, and I did have my notes, but I can't get with them. On the landmark properties, multifamily, and then dealing with the concept. I like what you said about sometimes if you're representing both sides, you can help get to that agreement. And I'll say this, what we have to deal with out there, and I think we're fighting a monster in front of us here. It might be better, maybe we could talk about how could you work with us, because we are so against this little local act. How would you see that progressing, because it is a big, big issue to us, we're trying to make that.
Yeah, look what I'll say, Commissioners, the Live Local ended up very differently, as you know, than how it started. And a lot of that was through input of stakeholders. You know, look, it was a bill that was, I think, to your point, the Senate President's bill. It was Commissioner Starkey's point, and the Senate President will be in the legislature for another 2 more years. And I see that as a good thing, because she is someone there who owns the decisions in the bill, and she's a very practical woman. But if you can bring her reasons why things aren't working after a year, she'll be open to having those conversations, I think. Okay, and then Commissioner, I want to come back to one other thing. We've been in a fascinating series of conversation on behalf of some of our FEMA-related clients around, and you'll find this if you haven't found it already, the state of Florida, DPM and FEMA will come in, they'll try to bring a house past that 49, if it's above 50%, they'll try to make it livable, plywood countertops, that kind of thing, the FEMA side. And then when the HUD side kicks in, which in Florida is commerce, they're going to come in, rip out all that stuff that had been done previously and put in, you know, the marble countertops and whatnot. And so we're working with Secretary Kelly at Commerce and Director Guthrie at FD&M to see if we can get for Florida a pilot project that would essentially have FDEM come in and do most of what the HUD program will do with some kind of a state bridge loan in the middle. And that's conversations we're in currently. I know we're running out of time here. Did want to tell you, look, you have an all-star delegation, right? Although Senator Hooper we know is from Pasco, on the Senate's official website, he's still from Clearwater. So there was some conversation. Look, Senator Burgess, Senator Hooper, Senator Golia, Representative Holcomb, Representative Maggard, Representative Steele, obviously Representative Yeager, represent you fabulously. You do not need a lobbyist to lobby them. They do their jobs for you. What they can't do, that a good lobbying firm can do, is to go into the leadership, into the governor's office, and make an objective case for certain items. That is not their role for the county. I have a lot more to say, but we're thrilled to be here and really honored for the opportunity to be here.
I have to say one thing. Kevin Guthrie is from Pasco County. That's all. We loved them and then they took him.
I think he could end up in Washington.
I took him to Washington on the promise that he would not go there. I took him to the White House and they actually used him. Rubio set it up. That he helped FEMA in Washington figure out a lot of things. But then we got him back.
Something in the water here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
You good? Yeah, we're gonna take a 5-minute break.
Yes, sir.
We'll bring those briefs.
Where are those?
So just to let you all know, you have 30 minutes of uninterrupted presentation. You'll hear a 3-minute timer and then a 1-minute timer when you're done. And then after that, you'll have 30 minutes for questioning and answering.
Well, I think we've met a few of you.
Afternoon. Friday afternoon, how are you all? Thank you very much for having us. My name is Seth McKeel, and I'm the managing partner of our Tampa Bay office for the Southern Group. And with me is my partner in crime, Laura Beamer, who you know. Laura and I worked together at Southern Group since I came about 2014. My background, I was in local office just down the road in Lakeland. I grew up in Cole County and still live there. Was on the city commission there for 5 years and then left to be in the legislature. I was in the Florida House for about 8 years. Left in 2014 after writing the budget for the House and
shortly thereafter, and we built a great practice here in Tampa Bay. And we're excited to talk to you a little bit about here today. So thanks so much for having us. I think it's not a secret that local government business is a very important part of the operation that we have, and certainly in the Tampa Bay market. And we're excited to bring those resources to bear for you guys. So, do I have control over that? All right, so this is a little bit about our team. Founded in 1999. I'm sorry. We good?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I'm just looking at your map.
We had a technical glitch there. So we were founded in 1999, primarily by Paul Bradshaw. Paul is still the chairman and CEO of our firm to this day. We have now 60 plus lobbyists, 410 different clients in 11 markets. But Florida is primarily the home base. I want to talk about that. We have 40 plus lobbyists in the state of Florida in 6 regional offices in Florida. We take the regional office concept very seriously. I want to talk about that a little bit. We were the first to kind of branch out. If you can imagine 30 years ago in the lobbying business, folks could be in the lobbying business in Tallahassee, have 1 or 2 relationships, and kind of make it for 15 or 20 years. Well, term limits kick in. Our firm was one of the first to really take lobbying to the streets and open very successful regional offices. That's really important because, as I talked a little bit about term limits, there's enormous churn. Every 2 years, the entire Florida House, half of the Florida House is new people. So our regional offices really drive those relationships and begin to build those relationships at an early period before those folks are even elected. It really serves our clients well because of the enormous amount of churn. This is our overall team in Florida, and as I shared, Paul Bradshaw is our chairman and CEO. We are governed by a board of directors on which I serve as a managing partner from Tampa Bay Group, and then you can see our reach kind of throughout the state. The nice thing about, again, the regional approach that we bring to the table, in addition to managing relationships and having strong relationships in a churning environment, is that committee chairmanships, appropriation committee chairmanships change, right? And so they go from region to region, and it's not always somebody from Pasco County that's going to be making decisions that's going to be important to you guys. It's going to be likely going to be somebody from Miami. It's likely going to be somebody from the Panhandle coming up. So our regional approach to building relationships really serves our clients very, very well, because candidly, there's really not a decision maker anywhere in the state of Florida that somebody on our team can't get pretty quick access to. You know the timeline pretty well. This is the timeline we work on, and I'm not going to go into it in detail, but we're in the first inning here on the left side. You can see, and so it's important, obviously, that you get started quickly. And this year is going to be a little bit. This year is a little bit different. It's our off year where it's a little bit later session, so that gives us a little bit more time. But we'll hit the ground running very quickly after Tuesday. So it's been full-on campaign mode and fundraising mode and all that for now. And then Tuesday, the whole conversation will shift to this timeline that I talked to you about here. And we got to get legislative budget requests in pretty quickly here in short order and secure sponsorships and get that process rolling. You can see it sort of goes through in early January. The governor will release a recommended budget. We're going to talk a little bit later in this presentation about how potentially hurricanes impact that. But this year we'll definitely have I'm sure we're going to have certainly a conversation at the appropriations process and throughout the entire legislative process about hurricanes. We'll talk a little bit about that later. This is just a little bit more about our team, where they are, a little bit more about the facts of the legislative session. There are 1,957 pieces of legislation filed last year. 325 of those passed. So you can see that's a pretty tight funnel, right? So if you want your stuff to get through, relationships matter in ensuring that you get through that funnel. You can see we posted up the stat there of approximately $780 million in last year's budget for clients like yourself, local governments. This is just a smattering of sort of some success. You've seen these. We throw those up in this chart. It's sort of a smattering of success for local government clients. Not going to draw your attention to anything specifically, but the fact remains that we know what we do. We know how to do it very well, and we're pretty successful at delivering results for local government clients. It's a big part of our business, and it's a very important part of our business. I'm going to talk about policy and how we engage.
Yeah, sure. Also, good afternoon. I'm Martin with Summit Group. I know all of you, and actually had the
went to work with the city of St. Petersburg and was responsible for all their state and federal lobbying. And when I left the city to come to Southern Group, and I've been there ever since. I've actually been there 15 years. And my practice is primarily local governance, representing cities, counties, and Tallahassee, which is why I'm so involved with the Florida Association of Counties, with the Florida League of Cities. I always go to FCCMA, City County Manager Association meetings. I think it's important. I think it's important that we're there. I think it's important that we have our ears to the ground. We know what's important to cities and counties, and that we're engaged. So just a little about I know policy is also important to you. I think it's going to be especially important this year because of the storms. We know there's going to be a storm recovery package. We don't know what it's going to look like. I had the honor of meeting with Senator Cooper earlier this week, and we believe there still will be appropriation projects, and the appropriation project should be storm related. However, there's going to be some kind of recovery package to try to assist all the affected counties. Remember, it wasn't just the West Coast of Florida, the tornadoes on the East Coast as well. And we need to be at the table there to make sure that our voices are being heard, and that whatever ends up passing, obviously benefits not just Pasco County but the region. I will say I represent Pinellas County, have for a number of years. I know their county administrator, your county administrator work very well together. We're always talking about let's look for ways to work together as a region. So I think, should we be honored to come represent you, then I think we have those strong working relationships to really, get some important things done for the region. This is just a highlight that we've worked on local bills. I know every few years we have local legislation. We know the rules. We know how to get them passed. So that's kind of what this slide's about.
We were going through these slides so fast.
It's a time. I'm going to talk about this and let Sam talk about it as well. So, state and executive relationships, why they're so important. And I'll tell you that I think they're going to become even more important. The executive branch relationships are going to become even more important because you've seen in the past few years that the legislature, instead of funding direct appropriations in the budget, they're putting significant funding into these grant programs and state agencies. And you saw last year the governor vetoed the majority of the water projects, the majority of the road projects, and his edict was go to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and get your projects funded through the grant programs. So we've been really mindful about who we've hired over the years. So it's not to speak to this too, but we have former secretaries of Department of Transportation, DMS, HHS. We just hired the former DEP chief of staff. And the reason that's so important is because not only from a grant perspective, but I can't tell you how many times I've been asked to go to the Florida Department of Transportation or Fish and Wildlife or DEP because just there's a regulatory issue that we're facing and we're having it up. We need to get to somebody that we can get to kind of get us across the finish line.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. Obviously, I talked about my experience a little bit in the legislature. The last 2 years, I had the opportunity to write the budget for the state, and so in that capacity, as you can imagine, you end up sort of communicating with most everybody in our business, so people ask, why did I choose the firm that I'm with, the Southern Group, and it's really because the people that worked with me in the legislative process trusted my firm, and that really matters. They trust the knowledge base of the people that we hire. Laura talked about that a little bit, but Rachel Cohn, who runs our Tallahassee office, good friend of mine, the former secretary of the Department of Transportation. Last week we rehired Anna DeSergio. Anna was the chief of staff at the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. Anna was a former intern of the Southern Group who moved on through state government and went all the way to the highest levels of DEP. And we're excited to have Anna back in our team. As Laura said, particularly in this administration, over the last several years, a lot of the legislative budget issues have moved into grant programs and sort of block grant funding through the executive branch. So those relationships matter every single day. And I'll tell you, Laura will talk a little bit about this later, but the last few weeks, in Laura's work with local governments, her relationships with inside the executive branch have served local government clients very, very well because the coordination between local government and state government matters immensely. Legislative relationships are critical. You can see these are some key leaders that are coming up. We put them on the board just so you understand who they are. And as I mentioned in the first part of my presentation, a lot of the decision makers are not necessarily from Pasco County, right? And that matters in this conversation. So our next speaker. It's a great guy from Miami, Danny Perez, who our firm has a fantastic relationship. Our Miami offices works very closely with Danny, as does our Tallahassee office. The incoming President of the Senate is sort of from around here. He's from a little bit south of here, Ben Albritton. And Ben and I served in the legislature together, and he's a great friend. He's going to do a fantastic job in the Florida Senate. The legislature, as you know, has a unique way in Florida of picking leaders into the future, and that is some of these leaders have already been decided for the future years, right? So you can see what's going on in the Florida House. Representative Sam Garrison from Northeast Florida will be coming in as the Speaker of the House, and Senator Jim Boyd from the Manatee County area will be coming in as the Senate President. Moving forward, the Florida House has already identified Jennifer Kennedy from right down the road in Polk County, where I hail from. Who is a close friend of mine. We grew up together, and she's going to be a wonderful leader. She'll be the first female Speaker of the House in history, which we're all very, very excited about. And her counterpart likely in the Senate will be Jay Trumbull from the Panhandle. So again, just to drive home that point that breadth matters, and the depth and the breadth of your relationships in delivering results matters. More went to a good point. Further talk about relationships. We take this stuff very seriously. In fact, in our firm, we have a proprietary relationship matrix. We ask you to ask every one of those lobbyists that I pulled up on the screen a minute ago, who their best relationships are. Where are the best relationships that you have? We actually map that. We want to know where those are. We want to know who has access to all of the decision makers that are going to be important to you on a regular basis. I think I've covered that. The folks that I mentioned in that slide earlier, this is where they hail from. Again, just I'm kind of excited about this opportunity for you to potentially broaden your team and bring some breadth and depth throughout the state. And I think that's going to matter a lot as you go forward over the next few years, is to have a firm like ours that's large enough to have the reach throughout the state when important decisions for your county are being made, primarily funding.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit more about, obviously I know you all have very good relationships with your local delegation, but we just want to highlight a few of the other leaders. Obviously, Senator Hoover now is a Pasco County resident, no longer a Pinellas County resident, but he shares certain counties, and obviously is a good friend of ours. Senator Galea, just up there, Rose, Citrus County, we have a great relationship with him. And then I just want to highlight, Rep. Ford, he's going to be the appropriations chairman in the House of Representatives. He's from Tampa Bay, Atlantic City. We have 7 lobbyists in our Tampa Bay office, so we have very good relationships with him. We actually represent the city of Atlantic City. So I think that we kind of bring a unique relationship and a unique perspective to your local relationships. I just want to end with a little bit about the storm. And I want to say I'm sorry for everything that y'all are going through. I know many of you have lost your belongings, have lost your homes. I know part of the county's full of water. I want you to let you know that, should you bring us on, we want to be a resource for you, as Seth mentioned. I represent cities and counties all along the west coast of Florida that were all affected, from Citrus County down to Sarasota. And, I was on the phone beginning, before Milton even hit, with the governor's office, at 10 o'clock at night with DEP trying to get more DMS sites in St. Petersburg. Everyone worked great together. I know, Kevin Guthrie once hailed from Pasco, or once worked for Pasco, and he's been fantastic. But I just think that, we kind of bring our unique relationships to our relationship, and can be an asset to you, especially as you're recovering. It's going to take you, multi-years for the county to recover. And if there's anything that we can do, to help, even if you don't decide to go with call us anytime and figure out.
I'll just close by saying that coordination that Laura brings to the table is extraordinary for her local government clients. Laura has an incredible reputation throughout the state as a leader in local government representation. I think you all see her at Florida City County Managers Associations and Florida Association of Counties. She's involved at every level with representing local governments. It's a true passion of Laura's and our team, and it is an important, very important part of our business. We are honored to have the opportunity to potentially expand your team and expand your reach throughout the state. We think that's an important component that you need to consider, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you've got.
I just have a comment. The one thing I like that you guys have people all over. So, and you made a really good statement about the
over the last 10 years, and that's been critically important to me. Like, we do have people who we're a broad region, no question, but we do have people who live in Pasco, we have people who live in Polk, we have people who live in Holmes Pro, we have people who live in Pinellas, and Point South, and that is very important. The community and the networking and listen, I mean, we represented the city, or we do represent City Plan City, City Chamber, and our team gets involved, and that community focus is what our regional offices allow us to do. That's why another reason I was super excited about joining the firm, because candidly, I do a lot of work in Tallahassee. We do a lot of work in local governments, but I don't live in Tallahassee. I live in a local community, and my team here in the Tampa Bay area, we represent local communities, and it's a big part of what we do.
And also, like you touched on, with the storms and the flooding, I think we're gonna need a lot of help. So, and again, I also think it's great because you have people local here that can talk on behalf of our local people and what we're going through, and that we really do need some help with this, the aftermath of everything, because it's a hot mess.
Well, and they just determined that we were one of the worst hit counties in the state. So, with that, we're going to start picking up private property debris as well as that property that's on county roads. So, it's a lot to do, and it takes time to do it. So, we got a lot of
I agree with you.
lots of people helping people. So.
You're 100% right, and I want to talk to this a little bit, but I believe, and as I said in the early part of my presentation, the session next year is going to have a bent towards conversations about hurricane and hurricane relief. There's no question. I mean, I think that the CAT fund and Citizens has enough cash to cover the reserves on the insurance side, but it's the uninsured losses that you're talking about, and it's the losses that local governments sustained that is really going to be a focus. So getting in that conversation early, if we go back to the timeline, is going to be really important, because there are going to be a lot of people in line. And so making sure that your voice is heard very early and getting feet on the ground really quickly, I think it's going to be important.
I do have one last comment, is that I've been working closely with the governor's office about our seniors and these mobile homes and things like that. So I hope that you guys lobby the heck out of, helping our seniors, because right now it's not looking great for them, and we're waiting on the federal government to, get the money. A lot of people are getting denied. So, and I just don't want to see our seniors have to move due to these circumstances. So,
I think the two biggest things I'm hearing right now is, one is housing, right? So where are we gonna put all these displaced folks? And then number two is the loss of revenue to cities and counties. When obviously construction is destroyed, who is in that property tax revenue? So what is that gonna look like at the end of the day, and how are we going to come together to find creative ways to kind of supplant that revenue, right?
Ms. Starkey?
Yes, so, two friends, consider all of them good friends, but there is a monkey in the room with your company that we need to discuss. And it's something that we talked about here amongst ourselves, and that is, how do you deal with a client whose wishes may conflict with the board's plan?
I'll start. We take conflict checks very seriously. We take conflicts very seriously, to my knowledge. If we don't have a conflict that you've
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, there's a process.
Yeah,
That is not.
So I know what you're talking about, and unfortunately, Mike and I don't think we were involved in the initial conversations with that client when this all started. Now we are engaged with them, and we've actually reached out to the county administrator, and we want to find ways where we're always working together. We don't ever want to be on the opposite page. We don't want to be swimming in the opposite directions. And so our goal moving forward is to make sure that we use the resources of the client to benefit the county, right? Let's pull our relationships, our relationships in the governor's office, pull them all together and all work together for a common goal. And that's our goal moving forward.
So Seth's gonna know we're talking about.
Yes.
Maybe, I can. So
I can tell you, because I've spoken to the client.
Yeah.
And told him my feelings about the fact that the money he got from the state for his project was basically for his development, but not to all of the citizens of Pasco County, which we all want. And so we have our priorities that we want done. When a developer takes it, and actually that developer had approval to come through the county, we lost out on some sidewalks and some other things that we thought were very important, and safety issues for kids and things of that nature. But we lost those projects, but this certain project got approved. And people thought it was Pasco County project, said, no, we gave you this money. Well, the county actually, it'll be used in the county, but it was for a development project.
You know, I believe that the client has been, he's brought a lot of folks back.
And I spoke to him about it.
To the county, right? And I think that if you decide to move forward with us, that I commit to you that we will work together moving forward. And the client's already committed to that as well, to with the county administrator.
That's good, because we already have set our board priorities, and we don't, there's a reason why, I mean, we work very hard to do our board priorities, and when the money goes to someone else's priority instead of the board's priority, it sets us back, and it hurts our citizens badly, so.
I help some of our citizens in that area, but as a whole, we try to do things that do help our citizens throughout the whole county.
And I think that was just a lack of coordination on maybe some folks on leadership and on the client's part, but like I said, moving forward, that would happen.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
So, as far as the issue, if they have a client, and the client wants something, their job is to go work with that client. Now, as far as if the money comes in, if it isn't affected, if it's not affected from our MPO money, and it comes to the money, then I think we should be just even grateful that we get the money. Well, think about it.
Why should our citizens pay for something that developers will pay for?
Look at money we get, that Senator Simpson got.
That's not ethical.
Look at the money Senator Simpson got for to get monthly. That was a big chunk of money. It benefited a part of the county, but we're all gonna benefit from it. And again, if it doesn't.
Yeah, but that was for the citizens of Pasco County, that's a different issue.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about Sun Lake Road, for instance, today, I'm coming down, I'm trying to go down State Road 52.
Yeah.
I can start.
But we're not talking about Sun Lake Road.
Well, I know, but other things that they're gonna do with that probably, if they ask for it.
But Sun Lake Road is one of our priorities.
It's another issue.
Yeah.
So again, but what they're working on, if they get a client, they need to follow the client. If there's a problem, deal with the conflict on a basic issue.
But I would say with this specific client that we have talked to them, we've talked to leadership, we've talked to the county, and we want to be able to, again, combine our forces to do good for the county, and work together to bring as much money as possible back to the citizens of the county and our projects for the county as a team, if that's what, you agree that it does.
To that person, to your client and the person I'm talking about, I personally talked to him about it and told him my views, just like I'm telling you, and he understood what I was saying.
Okay, I apologize that you were not.
If it's a project that affects for him and all of Pasco County, like Sun Lake Road or something of that nature, that's a big deal for all of Pasco County. That's a different story.
Okay, and one other, and I don't have the list of, but I am sure your list is so ginormous that, because I mean, you're one of the top firms in the state, I mean, there's no doubt about it. So, another issue that we found is when some of the builders want to take away home rule. For example, was it last year or 2 years ago? When I say home rule on decisions, so I think it was out of Commando County, the builder, I don't remember the name, Colonial Homes or something. They took away the right for us to be able to say what architectural details, how many we would want on a home, because we're trying to not go to the bottom of the barrel in our development world. And if we let, there are some builders and developers that want to live in that space, and that's fine, but there's a segment of the market that maybe needs that for very lower income homes, but we don't want our county to become one big ugly mess. So it's important for us to be able to help guide the quality of our development. And when those abilities get taken from us,
and regulates in Tallahassee, to me, it hurts the whole state. Because they don't just do it to one county, they do it to everybody. And so, where are you if you have a client that's trying to do something that goes against the values and the goals of us? So that's just my concern when you have a big company.
I mean, look, you know that the majority of my book of business is cities and counties, and I can tell you, I can't remember an issue that we had, like a policy issue that we had in Tallahassee that I had, or that we had a client that had a competing interest with the cities and counties. I just can't think of one.
Well, that one, got our attention.
And the thing is, we've actually had issues. We've had issues arise where, some policy decisions that were being contemplated in Tallahassee, we're dealing with some stakeholders, and the good thing is we were able to bring them together, right? So we brought the other client in the cities and counties, or this particular thing, I'm thinking about the Association of Counties together, and they were working out their differences. So that's, part of the, I guess, what's good about our firm is that we're actually be a resource, and we can actually bring folks together and kind of work out these issues in Tallahassee because we have relationships with the CEOs of these companies, and obviously they're in leadership in the county to get those details worked out before they get across the other side.
Yeah, I mean, I would just add to that, there's a breadth and depth to our client list that is, that can be brought to bear on your behalf as well. I will tell you, we represent people for a long time. We have a lot of clients that have been with this firm for the entire tenure of the firm. So if we want to provide value and bring people together, then we continue to pay it. So, we want to be a resource to you, and we want to be able to bring all the parties together, to Laura's point. She's done a fantastic job of that as it relates to the association and different policy matters. She's amazing at bringing all these people together.
Mr. Chairman?
Well, don't finish.
Just wait.
I've been going for
You've
it.
been waiting.
Go ahead.
So, question, and you might be going to this, do you have any apartment complexes that you represent? Any buildings of your apartments, multifamily?
Jacksonville Group represents an affordable housing developer. They do multifamily, but it's in the multifamily affordable housing component. I think that's the one that's not really.
It's not the luxury ones that go for the affordable housing and try to get them local, right?
No, sir. The one I'm thinking of is in Jacksonville. Yeah, Florida Housing, FHFC.
Real affordable.
FHFC, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Mr. Waver, thanks, Chair. Keep up with my same kind of three questions on there. Good to see everybody. So, no question, our board's pretty tough, feisty bunch.
So's Lauren.
So obviously we took on Live Local last year, and I started talking about Live Local before the bill was passed, sharing my concerns. People thought I was a crazy person, and felt like Chicken Little for a little while. The sky's falling, and sure enough, Pasco became ground zero for the Live Local Act. And once this board, collaborated, worked together, and understood how tough a bill it impacted not just on our county but the state, we made a decision collectively, and I'm very proud of it. We knew we would probably limp out of session with some hits to some of the things we asked for, like Chair, we lost the second phase of sidewalk funding to the most dangerous school for kids to walk to in Pasco County, and that was the second and final piece of it. It was a little bit of money, but a big deal for them, $1.5 million. And some other things that occurred. So how would Southern, here's what I appreciate about the size of Southern. There's firepower in a firm like yours. And though there might be a lot of clients, there's firepower and weight where you all can get to. So when we go up against, okay, we know collectively we're taking on state leadership's priority bill. There's sometimes consequences for that. So say Amendment 5, I'm having some real concerns about Amendment 5. If Amendment 5 passes, what that means on how local governments manage their budgets and taxing, I think if Amendment 5 passes, local government is gonna be forced to have to make some tough decisions for tax increases. And this could potentially limit the ability for local governments to manage taxes at the level that they are now, or even reduce taxes on folks. So if we were to, collectively decide as a party we're going to box some policy issues that are a big deal from our leadership, respectfully disagree, how would your firm help us manage that? If we were the tip of the spear again, because we were once, so it may happen again, or another somewhere around the county. I think our work benefited the rest of the state and other cities and counties throughout the state. So how would your firm help us manage, a situation like that, whether it's a PR approach, having the right conversations with people, maybe how to get collaboration. You guys are all over the state, your local office, to grab people from Jacksonville, South Florida, West Coast, East Coast, wherever, to help us fight the fight. Like Florida cities and counties and FAC, they were chicken. They were scared. Stay scared. And they said they were scared and they didn't do anything. So we went at it on our own. So it's basically my first question. So how would y'all manage that particular situation if it were to happen again? And then manage bills. Consistently coming out of Tallahassee is the erosion of home rule. And it drives me bonkers. And we go to to development or housing or what have you to control what we're elected to do our destiny. How could you help us in working with FAC and others to really get the conversation going about keeping government local closest to the people, prevent the erosion of home rule as best we can, and that goes to unfunded mandates that come with it, right? Where the ideas that come out of Florida and they're just getting unfunded mandates that we have to come up with money for to fund. So I'm bundling just those scenarios in one big package, and then I have a separate question after that. How would you all manage those types of situations as they arise? Because they're going to come up.
I'll start and I'll let Seth finish. So first, I want to let you know that we have a big team. During session, we meet every Mondays, right? But we meet as a team. We have a session, a team session meeting every Monday where it's called session strategy meeting, where we all meet. We actually keep track of bills that we're working on. We keep track of the appropriations we're working on, and we talk about issues, right? And so with the Live Local, if we had been involved in that, hopefully because we have folks in our offices that are working on different aspects of that policy, we could have gotten in front of that. And we could have gotten you in front of the right leadership in advance, and we could have expressed our concerns before it got to the point that it got to. I will also say that, what's the second part of your question about managing bills? We
The local emerging reform rule, like Amendment 5, for example.
Got it.
And we see that what I think might happen happens, there needs to be some work on that, and otherwise it's going to be, it's going to be challenging in every local government. Even special tax with mud, mosquito control district, you name it, they're all going to have to,
So how I work with my local government clients is
in the future.
If we know that there's a bill coming down the pipe and it's a leadership bill, and we know this bill's gonna pass, and there isn't anything that we can do to stop it, I'm always being told, Laura, come with me, don't come to me and complain, come to me with a solution. So we would work with the county, with your county attorney, and let's find some solutions that make the bill less painful, right? If we know that we can't stop it, let's see what we can bring to the table to kind of let's make it better, right? And sometimes they don't actually realize the consequences of what they're doing. And if you bring them little fixes, it makes the bill sometimes incredibly better, and it's just something that no one can come to them to talk to them about, especially when we can come at it from a local perspective. Like I can bring a county commissioner up and they can talk about how this is really affecting their community and their constituents. The other thing I wanted to say, and we didn't hand it out, one thing that makes our firm very unique is we have a full-time content staff. And what that means is we have a gentleman who all he does is he does recaps of, so during session we'll do recaps of committee meetings. So let's say we're tracking the local. He will watch the committee meeting, he will transcribe it, he includes all of the public testimony, and we send those out on a daily basis for bills that our clients are tracking. You get a weekly update from us with a weekly local government update with everything that happened that week. And then we also, we have a whole tracking
forms that we can send to you where every single bill that we're tracking during session, we update it. So we know what happened this week, where's the bill at, we can have, weekly conversations and if the bills are going to go, et cetera.
Commissioner, I would just answer that question by reaffirming what you said at the beginning, it's firepower, right? And it's relationships. So you've got to have those relationships. To Lauren's point, you've got to get in earlier, you've got to have the right conversations earlier, you've got to bring solutions. And usually when we do that, and we have the appropriate access, which we do, we can avoid any shrapnel, as you referenced, or punishments. The idea is to get in early and have those conversations, and really, again, I don't think you said it, but it's firepower. It's the right people in the right room at the right time. That's sort of been our specialty. At the firm is those relationships. I go back to that relationship matrix. If a member of the House or a member of the Senate is filing a bill that you don't like, that person might not be from Pasco County, right? And so, who has the firepower and relationships to go have a meeting with that person before that bill gets, moved down the road or moved through 3 committees? So, I think that's a big part of what we do. So, bring back up.
So we were a bit, just an example, when we were going through this, I won't say we were stonewalled, but we were hitting some speed bumps on getting the right conversations with the right people. I think people were refusing to take a look in the mirror. All the work that David Goldstein put forward and we were bringing forth to the county, folks up in North Florida just didn't want to hear it. And I'm hoping that with your firm, if it sounds like what you're committing, you'd be able to get us in those meetings and have those conversations, and say, hey, look, please take us seriously and please hear us out, not send us to some, 9 batter in the dark room somewhere sort of thing. Like, we're all pretty astute in the process. We know when that happens.
Just to add to something what you're saying, I honestly believe Southern Group actually, with their folks out in the field, helped us, not only helped us, but helped their actual clients. They have in other areas, because this affected more than just Pasco County. I've heard word that possibly did happen, and appreciate that. So, because it was all, it looked like it was just one for a while, but then after people started realizing what it really was about, then they were asking, your guys were asking all the help too. So I think we all work on the same thing.
That's right. Yeah. Karen said it better than I could.
Yeah.
Our teams, our team didn't work for you then, Commissioner, obviously. I think, humbly, I think you ought to get some try.
Then the last piece, something off course that was storm related. What was it, 2 years ago, we had tort reform and the legislature started taking insurance. Now more than ever, as Commissioner Gabe pointed out, from seniors to young people who've moved here and they put their entire investment. We have places in Pasco that have never seen water before and homes are flooded. The insurance, the homeowner's insurance issue in the state is unprecedented. It's very troublesome. When these claims start hitting, we're going to have people who can't afford to move back or just can't afford to live on the same properties. You have, what kind of job and income do you have to live in Pasco County, where insurance should theoretically be pretty stable and affordable with where we're located, with the exception of the coast, maybe along some rivers now. But folks are going to start to lean in on government and asking us from Area Agency on Aging to this board, hey, insurance, we can't afford to live here. What are our options? County doesn't necessarily want to have to take ownership of derelict homes and then have to pay the demo on themselves. So what insurance expertise? I don't think the reforms that have happened have moved fast enough. I don't think they've gone far enough. And this is not just going to impact that, it's going to impact the whole state now. So next year, I think everybody in this room is going to probably see an increase. What does your firm have as far as their plan to work with the legislature over the insurance challenges in the state of Florida?
They're huge, and we are involved in those issues, and I look forward to connecting you with our team, led by our insurance team, led by 2 leaders, Paul Mitchell, who used to work for OIR for a long time. He's one of the best insurance experts in the state of Florida by any by anybody's measure. We hired the former insurance commissioner, David Allmeyer. I was on a phone call with David just today talking about the potential budget impact of any cap fund or insurance bailout. So I would tell you that our insurance team rivals anybody in Tallahassee. I'd love to have the opportunity to connect you with those. I would start with those two guys, Paul Mitchell and David Allmeyer. Like I said, David is was the state's insurance commissioner under two governors, and just a brilliant individual. And I think you're right. I mean, there's, as I said at the beginning of the talk, in my conversation, it's a timely conversation. I just talked to David about this today. It doesn't seem like there will be a budget impact to specifically cap fund and citizens, but it's the uninsured losses that you're talking about that are going to be sort of front and center in the conversation. What do those look like? And I think both policy and appropriations are going to be heavily weighted towards insurance and disaster recovery issues. Our team will be in the middle of that, primarily David and Paul, and those two guys. Those two guys have teams under them, but they're the leaders of a very, very robust insurance practice.
I have a question. So out of the three, you are the most expensive firm. So my question to you is, would you lower your price by $1,000? So then we're comparing apples to apples with both those two other firms. Well, because they're $7,000. That's insane. Yeah, a month, but that's insane, $7,000 a month, $6,000 a month, and $5,000 a month. So I'd love to be able to compare apples to apples. I don't wanna, have our taxpayers pay.
Commissioner, I will tell you, we don't want to lose your business over what may or may not be a small amount of money, but it doesn't surprise me that we're not the cheapest game in town. So I haven't seen it. I haven't seen everything that you're looking at, but it certainly doesn't surprise me that we're a little bit higher. But we're certainly always willing to negotiate with you.
As the taxpayer, you know what I'm saying? I would want
100%, that's your responsibility, yes ma'am. And
Okay.
we're certainly willing to negotiate with you, but I'm not surprised that we're
Were you guys supposed to, was there a requirement to give your client list or no? Because everyone else did, right? I guess I'm asking the purchasing people.
I'll check it out. Well, you just ask us how many clients might possibly be, maybe different than the whole county. I mean, how many clients we have, you'll be asking funds from the state or affect the county and get it.
Yeah, because one of the questions is, is there a conflict with any of your clients? And so we've been asking about certain clients, but I don't see the clients.
I would say, honestly, again, we're the largest in the state. There's over 400 clients so overall, and in 6 different offices. We do a conflict check. We don't believe we know of any conflicts. We certainly take them seriously, but there's over 400 and something clients. I think there's almost 50 open conflicts.
But they're not in Pasco County.
No, in Pasco County. Yeah.
What clients do you have? We don't even know what besides Metro, what clients do you have?
Well, they're public record. I mean, yeah, we all have to register. Despite public opinion to the contrary, our business is regulated, and we have to register all of our clients.
Are there any, besides Metro and Advent Health, do you have any other Pasco County clients? I think that's an important question.
So Mike manages the Pasco business. I'll let him.
I can't.
Can you tell more and more?
That's 2 more weeks, yeah. So
I got protection right here for you.
Yeah.
So he can't even give that answer? That's so silly.
No, he can't.
That's
There's no protection.
okay, all right, I won't. You speak.
He's an Advent and Crockett.
Your time's up.
Crockett, Tony?
But your time's up, so.
I was gonna say, I think we're finished. Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good presentation.
I didn't even get you in trouble.
Excuse me, ma'am, to answer your question, what it, the RFP asked for a synopsis of their current workload and how it would affect the provision of the services. That was the way it was worded.
Okay, because I thought I saw.
Some
provided.
some did.
They weren't required.
But they were not required.
Required to, right, the current workload and how it would affect the provisions of the service. All right, thank you all, I'll go downstairs and see if anyone else is here for the evaluation portion. And while I'm doing that, Ralph is going to hand out the scoring sheets. When I return from downstairs, I'll explain how. How are you feeling, Ralph? Are you better?
So on this sheet, I don't really understand this sheet. Everyone just did the bottom line on this. It's the
So this is the one I gave.
executive consultant, the senior consultant. They
They
didn't break
just
it out.
didn't give you individual billing rates, they just
Oh,
provided
yeah,
you with
they're
a lump sum.
We can talk about that.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairman? Yes, sir. Can we have a conversation before we do this evaluation part? We can. Okay.
We cannot.
We can, but at this point it becomes public meeting again, so Lynn has gone downstairs to see if anyone else wants to come up for it, and then we'll start from there.
Well, some of those people sat through.
Correct.
Were they supposed to?
They can only sit through their own presentation,
So they stepped out of the room during other presentation.
Oh, I thought you had the people
No,
that
they did
spoke,
not.
because this gentleman's been here the whole time.
Yes,
No, that's
he's-
different.
he's from the public?
He's public.
He's not.
Oh, okay,
he's not
so the
firm.
public could have been here the whole time, but
Yes,
not
ma'am.
the people who.
Yes, ma'am.
That's correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And so as soon as Lynn comes back,
So, are we able to speak?
I would wait until we officially start the
He's
evaluation.
gonna bring it
Yes,
back
you'll be
out
able
and
to
then
have
you can have
conversations.
discussions.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, you can have conversations and evaluation discussions before.
That's 11-1.
So we're just going this way.
Mr. Chairman? Yes. Vice Chair?
All right, Mr. Chairman, it appears that everyone has come back. At this time, we'd like to have you all begin your evaluation, and part of that evaluation is for you to discuss what you've heard today, what you read within the proposals, and then when you are finished with your conversation, we'll ask each of you to fill out a scoring sheet, ranking each proposal 1, 2, and 3, with 1 being your first choice and 3 being your last choice. You'll write that on your forms, you'll sign them, we'll collect them as purchasing, we will do the tabulation and show you the person with the lowest score would be your top choice, and from there, your second and third. The other conversation that you need to have is the board had discussed whether or not to have more than 1 lobbyist firm, so that would be an also for you to discuss, and then we would need a motion as to your 1, 2, 3 ranking, and do you want to award to 1 or more. So at this point, I will go back over. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to
I have
answer.
a question for Ralph on the more than one scenario.
Yes.
Ralph can take back up. There was a couple times, and I remember this during the local, where the Senate President's office would only talk to us through our lobbyists. So, in that scenario, if you had more than 1 lobbyist, how would that be organized through whichever office you're trying to, I mean, how would the Senate President's office know who our lobbyist is if we had more than 1? That's really my question.
So they probably work with the group, as a whole. So the county and our representatives that represent us, they would not set up separate meetings for those, for our individual lobbies, but it would be as a whole.
As a team.
And they would, they would hear us out.
So they bring in both?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. To Commissioner Yeager's point about pricing best and final, if we select the group, the order, would you then go take doors and talk to them about best and final before
Yes, sir.
pricing wise?
Yes,
So
that-
we don't have to worry about that. in our
If you would like,
decision-making
that,
today.
so from the award position, you can either make the final decision based on what you received today, and we'll do contracts there, or you can authorize staff to negotiate on your behalf and come back to you with best and finals, and And then we would do that at one of your regular meetings, and you would vote like you would on any other RFP based on that ranking at that point.
Board member, my preference would be make a decision and then have staff go and do the best and final negotiations and price. That way it doesn't cloud necessarily the best firefighter. If they don't agree, then we make our decision there. My preference. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to go back to your question, Mr. Goldstein. For the purposes when you see counties hiring multiple lobby firms, they usually break them up by appropriations issues or policy issues. And I think that's what we should be focusing on if we do something like that. You might have one lobby firm do this particular policy or this particular appropriations, but I would not have both of your lobbyists handle the same issue for that reason that you just brought up. How would leadership, take that on? Would they bring us all in a room or have two separate meetings? That would be my way of handling it, and that's what I would suggest. If we were to have multiple lobbyists, to break it up by issues.
You hire multiple lobbyists, is that what they do? They
Usually break it up by issues or by appropriations or policy.
There are counties that do that.
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Thank you. We are in extremely unique times. As a county number one, we just went through Live Local. We're fighting that battle, we're fighting it on our own. And I will tell you, when you sit with the Senate president, whose arms are full with all the way through,
She was.
not listening to a word you're saying,
Yeah.
just making it done, pass it up to my staff, because my staff wrote the bill, and we didn't get any presence to make something happen. We come to things going forth with the attorney that we hired personally, directly, has conversations, and then those conversations get taken, and then it comes back later on, and nothing happened. It gets worse, gets better, it changes. I'm gonna say that this bill is so big to try to get changed again. We've got three firms that are all three are excellent. They all have different strengths, and I think have different connections and organizational skills to push things through. I'm not for, in unusual situations like this, I think we need right now, this is a year, we need all the firepower we can get.
I'm with you.
Okay, and I think when you look at, the expertise having the DEP expert, with Southern, the connection with the governor's office, the connection they have federally as well, with all the money that the Advocacy Group got for Lee County for funding for different projects, all storm related, I'm gonna say, I'm willing to hire all three of them. And I mean, I know it's a lot of money, but we're talking about a lot of money. And there's no way that one firm or two firms, they can handle the whole thing. And I think somehow, I don't know how we can have the conversation, whether we can bring to the table, maybe it needs more route experience, but I think we need to get them all working together, because I think we need every single one of them to get what we need this year. And when you think about the big scale of funding, whether you spend $120 grand or $180 grand, what does it really matter? Because the money that we're talking about is
Our
huge.
budget will allow us to take on that sort of stuff.
Can I say something?
Ms. Yeager?
Yeah, so I necessarily don't think we need three. I feel like two would be good. And I do think, like you said, all three of them are amazing. And there's the value in having a smaller company and value in having a larger company. And both those larger companies have people everywhere. So I don't think we need three. I think two, and that's a lot of money to spend on lobby firms, I think. Yeah.
No, if there was, I'd almost rather take it if it were to be a scenario where you need another set of hands to manage something, that we just hire them to see if they'd be open, like an attorney can hire them for that project, whatever that specific project is, negotiate a rate for that period of time, and then it's not reoccurring. We pay them to try to accomplish task A, and that's their goal, and then when it's done, and it's not a reoccurring baseline. So I'm not necessarily opposed, I think it needs to be, depending on what that situation may be, that we capture that people who may, and who we have isn't necessarily capable of, don't be
You know, at one point when we were trying to bridge the road down, we hired Dawson to work for us on that.
Yeah, Lisa was not here, and neither was Seth.
So I
So
mean,
explain that a
what I'm saying-
little more.
So, all right, so when we were going Ridge Road, we were like stuck, what was it, in, 18 years.
For the Army Corps
miles.
permit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we hired a firm, Dawson being recommended by a local builder to get a look. We hired him. I think we paid him for 5-6 years. We finally got it through. So we have done that before.
They only worked on our Army Corps permit, while we had our other.
Correct. So, I mean, you know, we're gonna be looking at the federal coming up as well. And maybe there's a way to kind of, some other combinations can work. I mean, I just see, you need someone who can talk, get the governor involved to go push something's gonna happen. And we're lacking in that position. We need someone with broad presence as well. And again, I don't know, I tell you, this is so important this year. I would rather.
We're not disagreeing with you.
No, so I'm saying, I would rather minimize our federal funds and put more money to this, because I think it's that important, because we're in a very weak position. We're in a very weak position.
We still need grants and federal funds too, so we got big issues.
I think the ROI is there.
It is.
But if we can negotiate on the price, this one is a lot more than one.
Sure.
So maybe if the workload is shared, then maybe the pricing gets better.
Sure.
Yes.
Hey,
Mr. White.
Mr. Paul, what's the drawdown from what we score out of DC versus Tallahassee? I'm assuming we get way more money out of North Florida than we do out of Fayette.
Oh, absolutely. I know we haven't really, I would say we haven't really tried very hard on the federal side, which is why we want to relook at that.
Yeah, we're not getting what we should.
I mean, I would say you're 10 or 100 fold, you know, your investments and what you've got out of the state just in terms of appropriations.
One thing that I think has helped us in the future, if we become a regional MPOs, will help us a lot by moving our numbers up to where we're higher on that list to get some major projects.
I mean, we prevent one veto as our sidewalks last cycle to finish the project for kids, $1.5 million. I mean, if whatever firm is able to offer that task and just keep it from getting through the process and then keep it from getting vetoed, then the return on investment is there.
Right there.
I saw septic to sewer money in there, road money, we're gonna have a lot of water issues.
I've got a shelter issue over here. I have
EOC.
another issue.
EOC is a big one.
I do
We
want
have some
to.
big challenges.
Yeah, I would like Carrie to kind of address, because, you know, Commissioner Mariano mentioned something, it sounded to me like her engagement, and I did have some questions for Carrie regarding how the RFQ is advertised in terms of that respect, so Carrie.
Thank you. So, Mr. Chair, and board, the way we advertised it was a annual retainer with the monthly fees, not a per engagement fee. However, if that is something the board would like us to look at, we can ask in the best and final for hourly rates or something else that would accomplish that for you. But in all fairness, I would ask that we do it for all three and not just one or two, in order to see apples to apples, as Commissioner Nader is saying.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
The problem with that, you gotta go home, you gotta go spend time doing it. Sessions come on quick. We don't have time to wait. And just as you said, if we keep one project from getting vetoed, just look at how many millions of dollars we lost. We're talking about one project. If that means I get someone in the governor's office, we go talk to the right, or the Senate president, et cetera. If I get 3 of them banging on the door, I'm gonna tell you, I think for us this year, it is so critical, maybe the next couple of years, so critical that we make this extra investment, because we're getting killed out there. And there's so much potential right now with the storms. I need one group to be able, that's had great success funding it. I need another one for great policy stuff. I need someone who can focus on the local stuff that's gonna affect us as well. I mean, there's a time to invest
Let's
money.
ask the firms if they can work that way, because maybe they don't typically work that way,
Can
even
we
though
open
federal
that?
firms do.
Can we open that conversation?
Can we open that conversation with them?
So from what I understand, the Commissioner wants to ask the firms if they're basically willing to work together?
Yeah, because I don't know if that's a usual situation.
hear from the three to kind of see, let's see how this
They
conversation
think it
goes.
could work.
I think the best way on answering that would be, you already have clients, they may have multiple lobbyists. How do you handle that? If your client has multiple lobbyists, more in a local government issue if they have that.
The question, do they play well together in the sandbox?
Anyone want to answer that?
There's no order of it.
I'll go first, Let's go back in order. Do Sean.
Look, team in action.
Thank you, guys. I just saw rock, paper, scissors.
That's how we do it in emergency.
So I'll say, I think I'm going to go aside. First of all, you got two phenomenal firms. I've known each of these guys for a very long time and their team. And I've had experiences in both. I've had some that has gone really well, and I've had some that have not gone well. So if there is some, obviously somewhere in there, and the metrics that are being measured, and making sure that each team is putting in, but so I just had a personal experience that didn't work very well, that I felt like I was putting in 90% of the work and getting paid 50% of the money, and I didn't feel that was equitable. I've been with others, but they're there and tow with you every single time, getting the meetings and putting out the political capital that's needed to be successful for the clients.
I think it's safe to say our expectation is everybody, if this scenario plays out, based on expense of our public funds, everybody better be putting in the same level of sweat equity into this thing.
Me personally, I can't see how 3 firms would work in Tallahassee. Tallahassee might seem big, but it's a really small town. That's my opinion.
So I think before we can start giving our opinion, we probably need to let all three of them address the question, and then we can.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioners. So we're the Advocacy Partners. And what I'll say is we serve on teams of 10 lobbying firms, and we are on matters where we're the only lobbyists. And when you get I agree with Sean, where you get to a point where you've got a lot of cooks in the kitchen, to your point, Commissioner, it can get complicated. What we found works best is you have a very dedicated, authorized lead firm, and things are managed through that type of a process. Certainly, I think having a Tallahassee veteran like Ralph will help you organize that if that's the direction you choose to go in. And what I'll also say is when you have numerous firms, it becomes more work, not less work for everyone involved. And so if you're doing it because you think there'll be a cost savings, I think you're incorrect. If you're doing it because you want to put together the dream team and you have the resources to make that investment, I think that can be a wise investment. But when I first started lobbying, I had someone who said to me, he said, Slater, I don't hire people because of how hard they work. I hire them because of how hard they are to replace. And so what you're looking at when you look at these teams is who's the Senate President guy or girl? Who's the governor person? Who's the speaker person? And where's the big problem? In this case, live local, your challenges in the South, right? So there's a lot for you to consider there, but I think from us, for our firm, the short answer would be that we work with Sean, we work with Southern, we work with them all the time, and we work well with them, and whatever is right for the people of Pasco County will be right for our firm.
If I could, Mr. Chairman. So to touch on that a little bit, you just said the Senate President definitely was our problem, right? But when you have the governor, and that governor is going to look at a lot of things he can veto that she may have down the road as well, guess what? The governor could be a huge key. So it's a key officer. Through scalping, tried to get there direct. I got an officer, but I didn't get the person. Right? I got to get the governor. I got all those sidewalk projects, all those projects we look for, all this other funding we look for. I need someone that can get to the governor. Otherwise, you can write everything you want through the House and Senate, guess what? If he strokes a pen, you've got nothing. So again, with our weak position right now, I think we need to go all in, put the dream team together and make this happen. And we can work on the quarterbacking thing. We can talk that through where we think the strengths are. And maybe it's not just the issue of, we're going to work with Storm Fund Day, or just the local, who's going to find a who's gonna, the connection with the governor, who's gonna go talk about one project, who's gonna go work on the head of DEP to go help DEP's project go through. And wherever these strengths are, we kind of use them all as we go. And I'm gonna say this, I know these three firms very well. I have faith in the leadership of them all, and the personal connections I have with each one of them. I think we can make it all work. I don't think it's a big bureaucratic thing where I got a guy from over here. I think this group here can work together. I think they're all super professional, and I think we need them all.
The only real issue I see.
Can we just let the last person for the question?
Oh, the last
Sorry,
okay.
Excuse me, am I allowed to answer that? Am I able to answer that question? No. I told him to go ahead and leave.
Oh, no.
Because I didn't know there was more.
You can't speak for it. No. Sorry.
Yes.
Well, you wanna call him and put him on the
No,
phone?
hold on, Slade's gonna, yeah.
Do you want me to call Lauren?
No, we're good.
So on behalf of the Advocacy Group Department, the Advocacy Partners, we have a very nice relationship with Southern Strategies Groups. We're aware of 2 different instances where they are on multiple teams on county-related projects, and I'm certain they would be pleased to be part of a team that you put together.
Thank you, Senator.
And now you can. Okay, thank you.
Well, I think I want to hear from our administrator based on if we want to do 3. Possibility.
I'm still here with 2.
So I think the idea of having multiple lobbying firms is certainly a good idea. The number is, it just comes down to management. I mean, Ralph, again, it's a coordination effort and issue, and it would revolve around strengths of each firm. I do agree with some of the assertions there that there is additional coordination that will be required both on staff's part and both the lobbying firm's parts in order to make sure that that's going to work. 2, 3, 10 seems unwieldy.
The base thing in coordination of that is the fact you don't want them bumping into each other about trying to do work.
Well,
You actually want them where they can do their work and do it right without knocking their head against someone else because we got too many.
So the proposition of working with 2 firms versus 3 firms doesn't really scare me. If you had told me 5 or more, that certainly gets very unwieldy. We do projects all the time with multiple folks in teaming arrangements. It doesn't frighten me at all. I think what we would need to do is agree who is going to be sort of the quarterback. Maybe that's something we work out based on what the session's going to look like, and that can evolve. If everyone's agreeable and amenable to work together, then I think we've got that with these firms. I think we can make that work. I'm certainly willing to give it a try because it's something we haven't done before. And to all your commissioners' points, I think we want to play differently in this game, and I think we have a lot of opportunities ahead of us.
Well, like a lot of teams, one thing than another, so sometimes you work that out based on the makeup of the team. So
You
just
look at
did it
their,
with the hurricanes, right?
yeah.
you look at their customer list and like a number of them had Duke. I mean, I see that these companies have lots.
I would say too, if I could add.
So they must have a way they work it out.
I don't want to speak for the consultants necessarily, but I would say too that if you do have conflict, that there could be ways that could be a way around that, for example. So something to think about.
Mr. Mariano?
The way the contract would be set up, would be yearly contracts in 3 years.
So they are 3-year contracts with 2 one-year extensions, correct? So for a total of up to 5 years.
Could they be written for total of just straight 5 years, yearly contracts to be renewed?
It wasn't advertised that way, but I mean, unless we were overly unhappy with someone.
I don't think you should do that. We have to see if it works. I wouldn't commit to 5.
Oh, no, I do.
I think our yearly contract.
It's a 3-year thing, the opposite, he wants to commit to only 1.
Oh,
But if we can't, we already have time, so we gotta go. We get the 3 years, we try it, if it doesn't work, then you get the option to, after the third year, after the third year, make a decision, just kind of down the way you want to cut it off, do what you want to do.
All of our contracts do have the option to terminate for convenience at any time, so if I got 2
Any
months,
client does
it
it
would
now?
happen. Sorry?
So you have the option to terminate the mutual.
Yes, always.
So you get flexibility. Let's give it a shot for a year, what can happen?
Can I just add one comment? The one thing I would ask is if you're gonna use 3 or even 2, please only pick one to do reporting. Because as a staff member who gets these reports,
We get them too, they get forwarded to
I
us
think that's a
too.
voluminous amount. If every one of these firms is giving us updates every week, it's gonna be too voluminous for us to read, I'm just being honest with you. You wanna pick whichever one is best for reporting, and just have one do the reporting.
Probably let the vote of the 1, 2, or 3, that determine number 1 be the one reporting, and the other 2 firms report in him and
I mean, I think that could be just administratively.
It'll work out.
We could work that out.
that can work out easy enough.
Chairman? Yes, sir.
So if this scenario plays out, makes me wonder, then you have the federal side. It was alluded to that at least 2 of the firms out there have some federal experience. If that's the case, would the firms be willing to do federal work and we potentially forego a form of federal lobbyists? Just due to the price tag on this thing. We know we get more juice out of Tallahassee, but depending on how we're going and the firepower of some of these firms, they have a federal reach, they might be more successful dipping their toe in there than our current firm is.
No,
I wouldn't, I really wouldn't want to do that.
Me either.
I want them to do what they do best, and they're in the state for a reason, they're in
Yeah.
this group for a reason.
My other concern with that is we didn't advertise.
And they didn't advertise it. We've got advertisers.
We don't know if there's somebody who's really great at federal that never responded to this RFP.
Yeah, that's right. There's reasons why they don't, so.
I mean, Ralph, like, would there be something like, kind of, you know, you tackle this, you tackle that? Because I just can't see, I know how Tallahassee works, I just can't see how.
That's how I would, and that's what I would recommend, is, but let's look at the issues, and whether it be a policy or funding, but, by the strength, you know, maybe one's better on environmental, one's better on
Right.
transportation,
Okay.
whatever the case may be. I think it's, you know, we can develop that.
Rob, can I ask the question in a slightly different way? Are you comfortable being, sort of helping be the quarterback? In other words, I can say this because I deal with all these folks too on the legal side. I mean, I'm not gonna know what each one is strong at. I'm asking, you know what each one is
Yes.
strong at. So if I say, I need help on this legislative issue, you can tell me which one to go to?
I can feel comfortable doing that, yes.
Okay.
And you're gonna get lobbied.
I can tell you this, I feel very comfortable with all 3 companies, that they will work together and aim all of their purposes to Pasco County. And that's what it's all about, and our citizens. And they wouldn't be here if they weren't here for that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I make a motion, we hire all 3 firms at the rate of $6,000 a month.
But you have one firm that's fine.
We got one that said,
We can work on that, but we have to sign up.
Can I just ask
Gotta
for
wait.
flexibility, because whichever one is tasked with reporting may be doing slightly more work than the other 2. So, I mean, you probably need to establish some flexibility to.
Why, that's a report they make for all their clients, isn't it? It's just the
No, I mean,
same.
some of them are specific to our issues.
They may
Well,
share.
our local guy does that.
Chair, before we even talk about a motion, how many other counties have, huh?
Motion already made.
Yeah.
I know, I second that.
And a second.
Before we second it, how many other counties have 3 firms?
I do not have a survey of that now. I have to rely on lobbyists that have the experience.
Yeah, I do not know that
And
answer.
you tell us that, or Ralph.
Ralph, do you know the answer?
I do not have that answer, no.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So I would say, I think Pasco's big, but we're more really considered, say, way more than a mid-county. I would look at Hillsborough, who has multiple, South Florida, the larger you get, the more firms you have. I just can't give you, at a 1 million
When you
level,
say
they have
multiple,
3.
is it over?
I'd say we're about in that category now for our population that you're starting to see counties our size start to bring on more. You have Volusia, it's got one, but I would say we're starting to get in that category where you could have more than one. Somebody out in South Florida, Miami,
Well, we're definitely gonna have more than one.
I feel the ROI
we're
is
talking a half a dozen.
just to say one veto.
One veto.
Here, one freaking sidewalk. We are the veto county of the state.
That's right, we all need to be quiet and let them
Yeah.
vote for us.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add on to what Ralph and Sean suggested. I think what you'll see if you look at some of the big massive counties, they do have 5, 6 lobbying firms, and they tend to pay them substantial amounts of money. And so really what you've done here is pretty artful, and I'm trying to figure out who got lobbied here. But you proposed kind of a mid-sized county that we all have a special place for, so we gave you, as I referred to earlier, the government discount. And now you're probably on the precipice of getting the best lobbying deal in the history of Florida. And so my point being is, I would look as much at the firms, as at the number of firms as I would at the expenditure. And so for a return on investment, I do what you're talking about here from what we see, and all this is public data, I just don't have it at my fingertips, is the larger counties pay about double that per firm per month. And so I'm sorry.
We don't have that.
Exactly, and that's my point. You've already got our prices.
You're talking about Adams counties too.
Yes, sir, exactly. And you're 600,000 people now, I believe.
700.
They don't say that number.
Been a good year. But point being is, you've got 3 proposals at a very competitive rate. By my estimation, you're suggesting that you will get more and we will work more by hiring all of us, which certainly I think would accrue to the favor of the residents of Pasco. I mean, it's a really good deal. If we were asked, for instance, to give you a proposal to be on a team of 3, our number would be much higher than it was in our proposal.
Okay, so what was that motion?
To hire all firms, if they all agree to the,
Does this have to be unanimous vote?
Let me,
I'd like staff to go and negotiate this final rates with the firms, just in case.
so I'll modify my motion not to exceed.
Yeah.
So my motion will be, to offer all 3 firms the rate of $6,000 a month, not to exceed that amount for all 3 lobbyists.
second.
I'm okay with it because it gives staff flexibility to balance out workload. If it's not to exceed, then I'm sensitive to Sean's point that you don't want to have one firm doing all the work.
Oh, that's
with the
the
same
thing.
pay. I mean, that's my concern. So, but the not to exceed motion is fine because it gives staff flexibility to negotiate down based on workload.
Any further discussion? And keep in mind, it's a 3-year contract, they may take turns in the next 3 years to rotate it out too, so they can work out that detail.
Well, one of them may not take the deal. None of them may say it is, may not work.
Well, we'll have to negotiate that,
Yeah.
work with that. If that's the case, then we'll have 2 and we'll have 2 work together. But
We'll be okay with that, so.
I think your motion works together,
So, to that point, then, should we then take that motion off the table, go back to ranking them as we were moving forward, and then we can have that discussion on what you envision, 2, 1, 2, or 3, can it be negotiated, but at least get them ranked today.
Well, I think we only have one that, we know the Southern would be interested. We know that advocacy is, Sean? Can that work for you?
Oh, absolutely, work with them.
Okay, there you go.
He's sending grants all the time.
Well,
we're there.
can I ask a
Go
question? If you want them to rank them in case negotiations fail?
Correct.
Is that,
I think that's what we should
we had to pick one, is that why you're asking them to rank?
Yes, I think we should go at least get them to the ranking, because we don't know how this will work out and play out.
I've got mine right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
It doesn't even matter,
No,
because you're gonna go for all 3 anyway.
yes.
What does it doesn't matter else, so you.
Well, I think it matters for something, I personally think.
Because you're gonna hire all three anyway, so what does, ranking does matter?
It's not good, you can't have a captain that's three people, you gotta have one person. I think if you rank them, you get a 1, 2, 3, and the person or firm that gets one would be the lead firm, and then the other, they would all work. It doesn't change what they do, it just makes them work together. But they have a lead person, wouldn't it?
Can I ask Carrie a question?
Yes.
Carrie, is this, in negotiating with the three firms, does it help to have the board rank them?
It would, at Mark's point, if something should fall through and one decides, no, we don't wanna do this, so what they've said here is not binding. So they've indicated they're agreeable, but we're not sure when we get down to the best and final if they are actually going to enter into that agreement. So if you rank them, then we know if your team captain says no, then we go to the next one. So that would give us that flexibility.
So it might help in terms of picking the captain.
Correct.
Okay.
That's all they I was talking about.
Ralph's the captain.
Yeah.
Ralph's the mascot.
Well, we got the captain of the firm, but then we got Ralph, so.
And for your motion as well, board, we would also need to know what you would like the next step to be. If you would like us to bring best and final back to you as a board at one of your next regular meetings, or if you would like to delegate the authority to the county administrator to accept the final negotiated contracts and signed.
I'd rather go to the board, just my opinion.
Think of the board.
Your motion, have that in your motion.
If I may have something to be helpful, without having to go to that. So the other firms are just saying, with the experience that I've had before, that if we prefer me to be the lead, and keep you from having to do the ranking, we're able to do that. If you'd rather still do the ranking, that's fine, but we're trying to come to
I'm
an
fine
agreement.
with that.
You'll be the lead? Sounds good.
Yeah, well, look,
Who would be the lead?
Sunrise.
John.
Sean will be the lead. So the motion will include that Sunrise will be the lead.
So we're confirmed with a motion, everybody understand the motion?
Why don't we restate it?
That would be
Motion would be to hire all three firms at not to exceed rate of 60,000 per,
With a ranking.
with.
Not 60.
60, that's not 60.
Sorry, guys.
You're trying to tell them already.
Not to exceed $6,000 a month, with Sunrise to be the lead.
Yeah. Second.
So I got a motion and a second. All those in favor, should we do this by roll call or?
You don't have to, but if it helps the clerk, I'm fine with that.
Does that help the clerk?
And we would also make the motion to include that we'll bring it back to you if that's what you'd like to say.
I only have one comment on bringing it back, and that is, Ralph, the current contract expires 31 December?
Correct.
Okay, so we would need to bring something back at our first December meeting.
Correct.
Does
Yes,
purchasing
December 10th.
and county attorney's office and our consultants feel like we can?
I believe from what we heard today, we can work together.
That's fine.
So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Wait, we'll bring it back.
I wanted to make sure that the language was clear, because we had the motion with the not to exceed, but then I want to make sure it's clear if there was other information that needed to be included in that motion about the bringing it back and everything. I just want to make sure everything is
Bring it
clear.
back forward.
Yes, bring it back to you for a board vote.
Is that part of the motion?
Correct.
Okay, can somebody pretty please
We'll
restate
have
that fully?
Have this motion bring to our next December meeting, David. Our first December meeting.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
You're a no?
Yep.
And the motion passed 4-1. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Here's my ranking. You have to have a ranking.
Well, I mean, my opinion.
Well, maybe it's not.
Motion included, not ranking.
Motion included the ranks.
They worked it out.
Mine did.
So we do need to rank?
The motion excluded rank.
Are we adjourned?
You gotta do that.
So for purposes, she needs clarification of the motion.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so clarify the.
So the motion was for a not to exceed amount of $6,000 a month with all three firms, with Sunshine being confirmed, and bringing it back to the December board meeting for final approval.
Okay, so just so we're clear,
Yes, sir.
do you want their rankings? Did they
No.
started to
No.
rank?
No.
You do not want them?
No.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Sheriff will be there.
All right, we're good, we're adjourned.
I don't know how you guys are gonna split $6,000.
That's what we're doing.
That's how I interpreted it.
I'm not gonna take your name.
We're each.
I know, before your place,
I did, yes, sir.
Yeah, so,
Commissioners, nice to meet you. I got that extra. Really look forward to working with you.
just be nice. Yes, I